Chapter 50. The silver-winged flying ant's slender waist wasn't snapped, nor did it show any signs of injury. However, after flying a few meters, its waist suddenly seemed to snap. The lower half of its body drooped down weakly as it staggered a few times before falling to the ground due to an unstable center of gravity. Zhou was delighted when he saw this. He hurriedly controlled the blood-colored avatar to rush over and strike the silver-winged flying ant in the head with ashen palm. After this strike, Zhou primordial energy was completely drained. He was once again unable to use primordial energy skills. However, the effects of the strike were very obvious. With the augmentation of the bone bracer, the explosive power of ashen palm caused the silver-winged flying ant's brain to turn into a mess. Immediately, it seemed to be demented as it flapped its wings and spun around. Seeing that it wasn't dead, Zhou went forward to deliver a few more punches. However, without the support of primordial energy, he was unable to use primordial energy skills. With only his strength and the augmentation of the bone bracer, he only managed to send the silver-winged flying ant tumbling a few times without suffering any serious injuries. However, the two full-powered ashen palms were too lethal. After the silver-winged flying ant thrashed around for a while, it gradually stopped moving. Ding! Killed legendary creature. Silver-winged flying ant discovered silver-winged flying ant companion egg. Zhou was slightly taken aback. He never expected a companion egg to drop. Although the chances of a companion egg dropping at the legendary stage were much higher, it was still a tiny probability. It was considered lucky for a companion egg to drop the first time he killed the silver-winged flying ant. However, in that case, Zhou had no choice but to take a gamble. A legendary companion egg required too much primordial energy to incubate. He might not be able to successfully incubate it. Zhou's only advantage was that he could incubate it with his game character. Even if he failed, the game character would die and it wouldn't affect him. However, he didn't know if the companion egg would still exist. This darn game. Can't I have a backpack or something? I can store the companion eggs and dimensional crystals after I pick them up. There's no need to use them immediately. It was useless for Zhou to complain. All he could do was control the blood-colored avatar to pick up the companion egg. Otherwise, the companion egg would be gone when his game character died and the dungeon respawned. He didn't directly pick up the companion egg. Instead, he grinded the vigor ants for a while and primordial energy crystals dropped. After replenishing his primordial energy, he picked up the silver-winged flying ant companion egg. Silver-winged flying ant and mutated skeleton ant have a compatibility of 21%. Compatibility with mutated vigor ant is 1%. Proceed with fusion? They are both ants, so why is the compatibility so low? The system notification left Zhou somewhat speechless. Without any intention of changing his mind, Zhou chose no before the companion egg entered incubation mode. Buzz. Zhou felt all his meridians vibrate violently like a bowstring. The primordial energy in his body was instantly sucked away, leaving nothing behind. It made Zhou feel as though he was about to die. He felt an explosive burning pain on his back as he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Bang! Without any surprises, the blood-colored avatar exploded and the screen went black. Indeed, even with the primordial energy limit of 10, which is very difficult to obtain at the mortal stage, it's still too difficult to incubate a legendary companion beast. Furthermore, this silver-winged flying ant isn't an ordinary legendary. Zhou felt a little stifled, but he was already mentally prepared for the worst. He wasn't too disappointed. He dripped his blood again to restart the game. When Zhou saw the blood-colored avatar's stats, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. The other stats didn't change, but in the companion beast column, there was an additional silver-winged flying ant. It actually hatched. Zhou was overjoyed. He originally thought that there was no hope, but he never expected the silver-winged flying ant to appear in his pet column. He hurriedly read the silver-winged flying ant's stats carefully. He was still looking forward to it. Apart from its relatively weak constitution, it had almost no flaws. More importantly, with the silver-winged flying ant's size, it could be used as a flying mount. Also, with a legendary flying companion beast like the silver-winged flying ant, Zhou could attempt to kill the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus. However, when Zhou saw the silver-winged flying ant's stats, he was taken aback. Silver-winged flying ant, legendary, juvenile, legendary life providence, king of low altitudes talent skill, silver wing flash companion form, wing strength, 12 speed, 14 constitution, 10 primordial energy, 11 ignoring everything else. Its stats were clearly too weak. At the legendary stage, it was considered the weakest type of legacy pet. It was inferior to the skeleton general, and could even be said to be much weaker. The silver-winged flying ant shouldn't be this weak. Could it have something to do with it not being able to hatch? Does this juvenile state mean that the silver-winged flying ant still has a chance of maturing? Zhou thought to himself as he summoned the silver-winged flying ant. The blood-colored avatar's back lit up with silver patterns before the silver-winged flying ant flew out. The moment it appeared, Zhou immediately noticed something different. The hatched silver-winged flying ant was at least half the size of the silver-winged flying ant he had just killed. The silver-winged flying ant was originally bigger than a vigor ant, about the same size as a mutated vigor ant. But now, it was only half the size of an ordinary vigor ant. Such a size definitely wasn't suitable for riding. It was just too small. Zhou made the silver-winged flying ant transform into its companion form. With a silver flash, 4 silver transparent wings appeared on the blood-colored avatar's back. However, the wings looked a little too small. They didn't match the blood-colored avatar's proportions. It made Zhou wonder if such tiny wings could carry the blood-colored avatar into flight. After giving it a try, the 4 silver wings flapped and actually managed to carry the blood-colored avatar into flight. Its speed was alright and it was very agile. However, the wings couldn't fly high no matter how high it flew. The highest it could reach was about 10 meters. It couldn't fly any higher. Zhou seriously looked at the silver-winged flying ant's life providence and talent skill introduction. King of low altitudes. Possesses powerful aerial control, but it can only fly at low altitude. It is the king of low altitude. Silver wing flash. Greatly increases flying speed for a short period of time. Silver wing flash was similar to what Zhou had imagined. As for the legendary king of low altitudes life providence, it left Zhou somewhat depressed. It couldn't fly high. From the looks of it, I can only hope that the silver-winged flying ant can grow up. Otherwise, with such stats, it probably won't be able to gain an advantage against any legendary creature, much less use it to kill the blood-colored Buddha lotus. I just wonder how I can make the silver-winged flying ant mature, Zhou thought to himself. Chapter 51. Zhou chose yes out of curiosity. He had no idea how to feed it, nor did he know what companion beasts ate. Although people would use dimensional crystals to enhance companion beasts in real life to promote their evolution, the silver-winged flying ant's situation was a little different. It wasn't evolving, but growing. You have 2 types of food: mutated skeleton ant and mutated vigor ant. Please choose the food you wish to feed. The food is actually a companion beast? Zhou found it extravagant. Any companion beast was worth half a year's worth of food for an ordinary person. Yet, this fellow wanted to eat companion beasts. Thankfully, the companion beasts that Zhou had grinded in-game couldn't be sold. For example, the mutated vigor ant was no longer of much use, so it wasn't a pity to feed it as food. Without any hesitation, Zhou chose the mutated vigor ant as food and fed it to the silver-winged flying ant. The mutated vigor ant that was chosen transformed into a stream of light and flew towards the silver-winged flying ant, injecting itself into its body. Apart from the silver-winged flying ant's body flashing with silver light in the beginning, there was nothing else. There weren't any changes except for the lack of hunger from before. Having killed the silver-winged flying ant, the ordinary vigor ants and mutated vigor ants couldn't stop the blood-colored avatar and skeleton ant Zhou when controlled them to continue forward. He wanted to see what was behind the ant nest. The mutated skeleton ant was like a tank as it constantly slaughtered its way through the ant horde. However, there were so many of them that they were like a tidal wave. After nearly half an hour of killing, they had only advanced a few hundred meters. Seeing that the underground space was a lot wider, Zhou Wen's heart stirred as he summoned the silver-winged flying ant in its companion form. 4 transparent wings appeared on the blood-colored avatar's back, allowing it to fly up. Although the blood-colored avatar could only fly about 10 meters high, it was enough to prevent the vigor ants from touching him. Furthermore, he was underground, so there wasn't any higher space for him to fly. In fact, it wasn't possible to fly too high. There were many ants crawling on the ceiling, so Zhou Wen couldn't let the blood-colored avatar get too close. Thankfully, the legendary life providence of the silver-winged flying ant king of low altitudes was very useful. It allowed him to fly very nimbly at low altitudes, allowing him to easily dodge even if the vigor ants jumped at him from the ceiling. As he flew over, Zhou Wen wanted to see if there were any other silver-winged flying ants or higher-dimensional creatures. He was no longer satisfied with killing ordinary vigor ant. The deeper they went into the cave, the wider it became. Not long after, the game screen suddenly brightened up, and a huge underground space appeared in front of them. It was unimaginably large. In the underground space, there were many ant nests connected to each other. It was like a huge underground city. However, those ant nests were different from human buildings. They looked like stone balls of different sizes, and there were many huge stone strips connecting them, occupying nearly half of the underground space. Furthermore, there was a large swarm of black-winged flying ants surrounding the nest. Zhou Wen could only vaguely see a huge stone ball-shaped nest in the middle of the nest. Furthermore, it emitted a strange golden glow. In the next second, Zhou Wen saw a swarm of black-winged flying ants rush over. Without any room to struggle, the blood-colored avatar was surrounded and killed by the swarm of black-winged flying ants. Looking at the black screen, Zhou Wen had no choice but to exit the game. It was unlikely that he would be able to explore Ant City for a long period of time. At the very least, I have to wait for the silver-winged flying ants to mature before I have a chance to explore Ant City. I wonder what the golden glow in the middle of the nest is? It doesn't look like an ant. Zhou Wen had only taken a few glances, but as the screen was too far away, he couldn't see it clearly. Zhou Wen happened to feel a little hungry, so he wanted to find something to eat. However, he realized that Li Xian's refrigerator was empty. The only thing was a half-eaten pizza that was already moldy and growing fur. Such a huge refrigerator is always open, but there's nothing inside. Isn't this a waste? Zhou Wen decided to buy some food. There were still a few days before school reopened, so he had to eat for the time being. In a hotel suite in Luoyang City, Qiao Xiyuan was reading through a document carefully. The blonde, green-eyed woman, Liz, reported as she looked at the tablet in her hand. That youth's information is all here. His name is Zhou Wen, a student of Guide High School. He just graduated this year and his results were pretty good. He ranked second in the combat test and has already been admitted to Sunset College. His father's name is Zhou Lingfeng. He's a translator and has no background. However, interestingly, Zhou Lingfeng recently remarried, and his remarriage partner is the family's widow, Ouyang Lan. And Tian's mother, Ouyang Lan? Qiao Xiyuan was taken aback when he heard that as he finally looked up at Liz. Liz nodded with a smile. Yes, Overseer An's mother. According to the intelligence, Jing even specially transferred to Guide High School and fought with Zhou Wen. After Qiao Xiyuan heard that, he pondered for a moment before staring at Liz and asking, Does Zhou Lingfeng really have no background? I've already gotten someone to investigate. All 3 generations of his family have been clean. Zhou Lingfeng's father is a carpenter. He didn't like doing manual labor from a young age, and with his outstanding talent in languages, he chose to be a translator, Liz said as she looked at the information. Is it possible for Zhou Lingfeng to come into contact with those people overseas? Qiao Siyuan asked in thought. I don't think so. Although Zhou Lingfeng has some talent in languages, he's frivolous and lazy. He's also lustful and often goes to places like bars. His cultivation is a mess, and he barely reached the legendary stage a few years ago. Such a person probably won't catch the fancy of those fellows overseas, right? Liz said. That's strange. Why would a woman like Ouyang Lan fancy such a man? Qiao Siyuan frowned. Women don't like bad men. Perhaps Ouyang Lan likes a pretty boy like Zhou Lingfeng? Liz said. Qiao Siyuan shook his head with certainty and said, Ouyang Lan is definitely not such a woman. Back when the An family underwent a huge change, An Datong died, and An Tianzhua inherited the An family business at the age of 14. The items that the An family has are coveted by countless important figures in the league. Even the An family has many clansmen eyeing it. It can be said that there are internal and external problems. Who do you think An Tianzhua relied on to protect the family business to this day at such a young age? For a powerful woman like Ouyang Lan, do you think she would randomly choose an incompetent man even if it's her second marriage? But we have already investigated very clearly. The Zhou family really doesn't have any background. Zhou Lingfeng is indeed a clean person, so it's unlikely he has anything to do with those overseas, Liz said. Don't underestimate those people overseas. Qiao Siyuan thought for a moment before saying, Is Zhou Wen staying with the An family now? No. As he and Li Xian formed a team for the college entrance exam, they seemed to have a good relationship. Therefore, he stayed at Li Xian's place after coming to Luoyang. We failed to find him in Guide City because Li Xian had brought him to Luoyang ahead of us, Liz said. Chapter 52. Zhou Wen walked out of Li Xian's house and walked along the road. The environment wasn't bad, but there weren't any large supermarket. Zhou Wen used his phone's GPS and realized that the nearest supermarket was about a kilometer away. Everything here is good, but it's too far to buy something. Zhou Wen wasn't afraid of walking, but he didn't wish to waste time on it. With the belief that wasting time was wasting life, Zhou Wen took out his mysterious phone and grinded the game Dungeons as he walked forward. Liz had received Qiao Siyuan's orders to take Zhou Wen back. As she had already sent people to keep an eye on Li Xian's house, it was easy for her to grasp Zhou Wen's movements. Upon seeing Zhou Wen come out, a subordinate whispered, Director Liz, shall we capture him? Liz rolled her eyes at them. Zhou Wen's identity is special. We can't let anyone discover that we were the ones who took him away. Besides, there are surveillance cameras everywhere in the villa. Wouldn't everything be exposed if you just take him away? Then what should we do? Liz waved her hand impatiently. Go back first. Leave this to me. After chasing her subordinates away, Liz combed her wavy blonde hair and thought to herself, with my charm, it's easy to settle a punk like him. Liz wasn't in a rush. She waited for Zhou Wen to walk out of the villa before starting her red convertible sports car. After confirming that there weren't any surveillance cameras, she drove over. Liz deliberately stopped the car slightly in front of Zhou Wen. Then, she flicked her blonde hair, causing one of her shoulder straps to slide down, revealing her snow-white and round shoulders. She looked back at Zhou Wen with an extremely seductive gaze. With a sports car and a beauty like me, that punk will immediately come forward to lick my boot. With this in mind, Liz's gaze and posture turned even more alluring as she wore a charming smile. But soon, Liz's smile froze on her face. Zhou Wen had his head lowered as he played with his phone. He didn't even look in her direction as he walked past the car, wasting the beautiful image she had painstakingly created. Useless net. Liz gritted her teeth in hatred, but she still maintained her charming posture. She shouted in a voice that left men numb, "Sweetie, can you do me a favor?" As she spoke, Liz's eyes were filled with coquettish charm. She was already prepared to seduce him. Once Zhou looked at her, she would immediately use her strongest electric and coquettish eyes to make him fall head over heels for her. Liz maintained her coquettish posture as she waited for Zhou to turn back, but he didn't seem to hear her. He kept walking forward without any intention of turning back. "Sweetie! Sweetie!" Liz resisted the urge to grab him and beat him up as she pretended to shout coquettishly. However, Zhou was engrossed in the game and ignored what Liz shouted. After all, he didn't hear his name, nor did he know that Liz was calling him. As she watched Zhou walk further and further away, Liz finally realized that her battle plan had failed. That useless NET. Liz gritted her teeth in hatred as she felt indignant. She stepped on the accelerator and drove the sports car in front of Zhou once again. This time, Liz didn't make the same mistake as before. She got out of the car and blocked Zhou's path. She held onto the car with one hand and twirled her hair with the other. She struck an extremely enchanting pose, fully displaying her curvaceous figure. With his path blocked, Zhou had no choice but to move his gaze away from the phone screen and look up at Liz. "Sweetie, can you do me a favor?" Liz asked with a blink. "I'll give you a taste of my charm first. I'll teach you a lesson later." Liz secretly swore inwardly as she prepared her next lines. As long as Zhou spoke, she could invite him into the car and take him back. No. However, the 3 words that came out of Zhou's mouth instantly made Liz swallow the words she had prepared. After saying that, Zhou immediately lowered his head and stared intently at the screen. Then, he circled around Liz and walked past her. The corners of Liz's eyes twitched as flames nearly spewed out of her eyes. The tiny flames of anger nearly burst out of her great chest. "Darn NET. How dare you ignore my charm? You're dead!" Liz cursed inwardly as she slowly turned around, opened the car door, and sat back down. Vroom. The sports car's engine roared, just like the anger in Liz's heart. The red sports car was like a runaway horse as it charged at Zhou, who was walking by the side of the road. Since the soft approach didn't work, Liz planned on using force. She planned on creating a traffic accident to get Zhou back first. Controlling the force and position of the car's impact wasn't difficult for a pinnacle legendary like Liz. If she wanted to break Zhou's left leg, she wouldn't break his right leg. "Originally, I wanted to let you go back with me comfortably, but you insisted on suffering." Liz stepped on the accelerator as strange patterns appeared on her skin. Faint wisps of light extended out from her body and enveloped the car. Liz's eyes shimmered with excitement. At such a close distance, with the car's speed and her control, and with Zhou being engrossed in the game, she didn't believe she would fail. Zhou didn't seem to react in time. He was still gaming when the sports car was very close to him, but at the instant the car hit the curb, Zhou finally reacted and looked at the sports car that was about to slam into him. It's too late to realize it now. Liz steeled her heart as she floored the accelerator and slammed straight into the car. Just as Liz thought she was about to succeed, she saw 4 transparent silver wings appear on Zhou's back. A silver stream of light flashed across the silver wings as Zhou's figure instantly retreated in a manner that defied the laws of physics, dodging the sports car's impact by a hair's breadth. Bam! The sports car didn't hit Zhou as it slammed into an electric pole by the side of the road. At the same time it snapped the pole, the front of the car caved in as shattered parts flew everywhere. Hey, hey, hey! Is this the traffic police? There's an accident here. Zhou took out his ordinary phone to call the police. Liz glared at Zhou fiercely before forcefully starting the car and reversing it back onto the road. She sped off and vanished in a blink of an eye. What brand is that? It's of such good quality. It can still drive after such a collision? Zhou watched in surprise as the sports car disappeared from his video feed as a haze flashed across his eyes. Chapter 53. Who are these people? Logically speaking, since they are pursuing Jing Daoxian, they should be League officials or soldiers. However, would those people hit an ordinary League citizen with a car? Zhou frowned inwardly and thought, I have nothing to do with Jing Daoxian to begin with. Could it be that those people know about Jing Daoxian giving me the Lost Sutra and treat me as Jing Daoxian's accomplice? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the matter was serious. With that woman's actions, those people might do anything. Without buying anything, Zhou turned around and gave Li Xian a call. Zhou, you actually took the initiative to call me. How rare, Li Xian said with a grin. There was a lot of noise coming from the phone. The sound of music and shouting was very loud. Find a place where we can talk. I have something to say to you, Zhou said. Wait, don't hang up. After a while, the other end of the line fell silent. Li Xian's voice sounded again. You can tell me what you want now. Is there any way for me to register for school now? After some thought, Zhou realized that the only way was to enter the college. The college after the dimensional storms was different from the universities of the past, especially a place like Sunset College. It had a deep military background, so even the government couldn't enter Sunset College to arrest him without going through legal procedures. Sunset College was under a semi-closed management. As long as he didn't go out, it was impossible for outsiders to hit him with a car like today. Furthermore, with the other party being so fearless, he might implicate Li Xian if he continued staying at Li Xian's place. No problem. I'll do it right away. Can you tell me what happened? If you can't say it, just pretend I didn't ask, Li Xian said. Zhou had no intention of hiding it. He recounted the entire story, only hiding the fact that Jing Daoxian had conversed with him and had forcefully given him the Lost Immortal Sutra. Holy sh*t, you actually met that devil Jing Daoxian? Li Xian exclaimed in excitement. I wish I hadn't met him. Just meeting him once caused such huge trouble, Zhou said with a bitter smile. Li Xian pondered for a moment before saying solemnly, Wait for me at home. I'll be right back. It's not convenient to talk on the phone. After hanging up, not long after Zhou returned to Li Xian's house, Li Xian drove back. Li Xian closed the doors and windows before whispering to Zhou, If I'm not wrong, the person pursuing Jing Daoxian and the woman who hit you with a car should be from the Special Inspector Department. What kind of department is the Special Inspector General? Does it belong to the military or the police? Zhou had never heard of such a department. Neither. Li Xian shook his head and said, This department specializes in handling special matters. It has a lot of latitude, and many times, it doesn't follow the prescribed procedures. It can be said that it's unscrupulous and has done many despicable things in private. There's a huge controversy in the League over the existence of this department. Many people who hate this department call the people in this department hyenas. Zhou's expression was somewhat heavy. From the term hyena, he knew what kind of people this department was. Hyenas were animals that could be said to be the most sinister and filthy creatures in nature. In order to achieve their goals, they would do anything. Once they bit something, they wouldn't let go. Furthermore, they would appear in packs. It's right that you wish to enter school early. Although the Special Inspector General has great authority, it's impossible for them to brazenly violate the law. They can only act in private. After you enter school, it won't be that easy for them to do anything to you. However, there needs to be a solution to this matter. Otherwise, if they keep pestering you, something will happen sooner or later. Li Xian thought for a moment before saying, Enter school first. I'll discuss it with my old man. He should be able to find some connections with the Special Inspector General. Find out why they are treating you this way. If it's not something too serious, think of a way to resolve this matter once and for all. Zhou didn't reject Li Xian's good intentions, but he didn't place all his hopes on him. Strength. I need more strength. If I can be as powerful as Jing Daoxian, why would I need to be afraid of the Special Inspector General? Zhou Wen's eyes shimmered coldly. He could sense that the woman had no intention of taking his life. However, even if the Special Inspector Department was willing to let go of this matter, Zhou Wen wouldn't let the matter rest that she had recklessly rammed into him with her car. Li Xian quickly completed the admission procedures. He said that he had nothing to do at home, so he entered school early with Zhou Wen. However, when Li Xian mentioned this matter to Zhou Wen, his expression turned odd. I originally wanted to use some connections to get us into the same dorm, but the school said that your dorm has already been assigned to you. It's at Four Seasons Garden. Is there something wrong with Four Seasons Garden? Zhou Wen had roughly guessed that Four Seasons Garden was the dorm that Ouyang Lan had mentioned. However, he didn't know what Li Xian's odd expression meant. Four Seasons Garden is where special admissions students stay. It's different from ordinary students. You were admitted at the same time as me. You aren't a special admissions student, so why were you assigned to Four Seasons Garden? Li Xian chuckled and said, from the looks of it, your relationship with the Yin family isn't ordinary. Can you help me get a dorm in Four Seasons Garden? If you want to go, can't you just stay with me? However, how do you know that this matter has something to do with the Yin family? Zhou Wen asked in puzzlement. Don't tell me you don't know? Sunset College was founded by the Yin family back then. Although it's a public school in name, in fact, the Yin family's words are more authoritative than the League president's, Li Xian said. Is that so? Zhou Wen never expected Sunset College to have such a relationship with the Yin family. You actually don't know? Then, are you related to the Yin family or not? Li Xian looked at Zhou Wen in puzzlement. If Zhou Wen really had a close relationship with the Yin family, how could he not know? Zhou Wen felt that there was no need to hide it from Li Xian, so he said, Zhou Lingfeng is my dad. Li Xian spat out the mouthful of water he had just drunk as he stared at Zhou Wen with widened eyes. You are Zhou Lingfeng's son? In that case, Ouyang Lan is your stepmother, and Njing and Tianzhua are your half-siblings? Holy sh*t, you have the Yin family as your backer. With a ferocious person like Overseer and backing you, why are you afraid of the Special Inspector Department? Once you stay with the Yin family, even if the Minister of the Special Inspector Department comes, he wouldn't dare touch a finger of yours. They are them and I am me. My surname isn't N, so I can't be considered family with them. I only wish that I can live in harmony with them. It's best if we mind our own business, Zhou Wen said. That temper of yours is just too stubborn. If it were me, I'd act coquettishly to win Ouyang Lan's favor. When that happens, you can have anything you want, Li Xian joked. Chapter 54. I told you not to alert anyone and to secretly bring Zhou Wen back. Yet, you actually hit him with your car. Have I been too lenient with you recently and made you forget the rules? Qiao Xiyuan's tone was calm, but his eyes were cold. Liz's body trembled as she hurriedly got up and bowed. Minister, it was my fault. Thankfully, the Yin family didn't notice. Please give me another chance. I'll definitely bring Zhou Wen back. You didn't notice? Qiao Xiyuan placed a document on the table and said indifferently, Take a look at this first. This is? Liz picked up the document suspiciously and was immediately alarmed when she saw the contents. How is this possible? That's impossible, right? Minister, is the information in here accurate? Qiao Xiyuan glanced at Liz before saying slowly, I always felt that there was something wrong with Ouyang Lan and Zhou Lingfeng's marriage. I felt that it might have something to do with that matter, so I specially got my teacher to help me check the Yin family's candidate list. This is the result he gave me. Do you think it's accurate? It's a list teacher found, so it naturally can't be fake. The shock on Liz's face intensified. But wasn't the Yin family's candidate Njing? Why did it become Zhou Wen? He has no blood relations with the Yin family. He's not even half a son. How can the Yin family give such a huge opportunity to an outsider? I have no idea why the family would give such an opportunity to an outsider, but one thing is certain. After Zhou Wen was admitted to Sunset College, the family did change the name on the list from Enjing to Zhou Wen. And according to the agreement, the family only has one chance to change the list. Even if Zhou Wen dies, it's impossible to change it to someone else. With that said, Qiao Siyuan stared at Liz with a burning gaze. Do you still believe that the family knows nothing about you hitting Zhou Wen with your car? Liz immediately broke out into a cold sweat as she lowered her head. I'm guilty. Minister, please punish me. She knew very well how important Zhou Wen was to the family. If the family didn't even know that such a person had been hit by a car in Luoyang, they would probably have been devoured to the point where not even their bones remained. Since you've only recently been transferred to the Special Inspector's Department and you're still unfamiliar with it, I'll let it pass this time. But don't let me see it again, Qiao Siyuan said. Minister, please give me another chance to make up for my mistakes, Liz pleaded. There's no need for the time being. Zhou Wen has already entered Sunset College ahead of schedule. If there's no reasonable reason, it won't be that easy to invite him again. I have other arrangements. You don't have to worry about this matter, Qiao Siyuan said with a wave of his hand. Liz said with an odd expression, I really can't believe that the family would actually replace Zhou Wen's name on the list. Even if Ouyang Lanlan was infatuated and was willing to give the opportunity to Zhou Wen without regard for her biological daughter's opportunity, how could the family agree to it? How could Tianzhua possibly agree? This opportunity belongs to the family. There's no need to waste time thinking about things you don't know. Just do what you need to do. You may leave. Qiao Siyuan waved his hand to get Liz to leave before picking up the document. As he read it, he muttered to himself, what is the family up to? How could such a great opportunity be given to an outsider so easily? Could it be that Ouyang Lanlan didn't want her biological daughter to take the risk, so she gave up this opportunity? However, with Enjing's talent, the chances of her passing are rather high. It's not too risky. Jing Daoxian coincidentally met Zhou Wen and stayed nearby for a period of time. Is this purely a coincidence? After Zhou Wen and Li Xian completed the enrollment procedures, Li Xian didn't choose to stay in Four Seasons Garden with Zhou Wen. All Zhou Wen could do was take the dorm card Ouyang Lanlan had given him and enter the specially opened garden-like area. There were rows of two-story buildings. The buildings were not big and the layout was simple and bright. Each building had a small courtyard. The yard didn't have any walls and was only surrounded by a white wooden fence that was half the height of a person. One could clearly see the scenery of the neighboring row. 702. It should be this one. Zhou Wen compared the dorm card and came in front of a small building. He looked around and realized that this was the last row of Four Seasons Garden. There were a total of 3 buildings in this row. His building was in the middle, and the one on the left didn't look like it was occupied. As for the one on the right, there were some flowers and plants placed in the yard. The soil was still moist, so it was likely occupied. Just as Zhou Wen was about to push the door open, he heard the sound of the door opening from the right building. Then, he saw a figure push the door open and walk out. And Jing? Zhou Wen couldn't help but be taken aback when he saw the figure clearly. And Jing was also taken aback, clearly not expecting to meet Zhou Wen here. However, in the blink of an eye, Jing understood what had happened. She bit her lip and ignored Zhou Wen as she left the yard. And Jing ignored him, and Zhou Wen had no intention of getting close to her. The two tacitly brushed past each other as though they hadn't seen each other. After using his dorm card to enter the building, Zhou Wen realized that it was indeed a good place. Although the layout and decorations were simple, it was very suitable for cultivation. It was even equipped with a personal strength measuring device and other equipment. A new beginning seems pretty good. After Zhou Wen patrolled the entire building, he planned on buying some necessities. Although the building was well equipped, there were no personal items like blanket. Zhou still needed to buy them himself. Previously, it was Li Xian who had led him to the entrance of Four Seasons Garden. Now that he had walked out himself, he realized that Sunset College was ridiculously huge. Although he wasn't likely to get lost on campus, his phone's GPS wasn't very accurate, making him take some detours. Furthermore, he didn't know where the daily necessities were sold on campus. The more he walked, the more remote it became. Zhou wanted to ask for directions, but he realized that he was surrounded by dilapidated old buildings. They were likely abandoned old school buildings. How can the GPS be so ridiculously wrong? Zhou looked at the map on his phone and felt somewhat helpless. Just as he was about to turn back, he heard voices coming from around the corner. I should ask for directions first. Zhou took a few steps forward, planning on finding the person who spoke and asking where the supermarket in the school was. Little May, you have to be good. You have to work hard in the future. Zhou heard a man's voice coming from around the corner again. Furthermore, he found the voice somewhat familiar, but he was momentarily unable to connect the voice to a specific person. As he pondered, Zhou turned the corner and saw a tower-like figure in the corner of a dilapidated building not far away. He was holding a tiny and adorable kitten that looked like it hadn't been weaned. His eyes were gentle and his face was brimming with a smile. However, even when he was smiling, his face still looked as ferocious as a devil's. It was terrifying. Gu Dian? Zhou was momentarily stunned. He really couldn't connect Gu Dian to the man in front of him who was carrying a kitten with a gentle smile. Chapter 55. Gu Dian placed the kitten to the side. Only then did Zhou see that there were 3 cats on the grass beside him. 2 were young and 1 was big. The 4 cats were clearly a family. The mother cat was sunbathing on the grass with the 3 kittens. There were 2 bowls by the side of the grass. One was filled with water and the other was filled with cat food. It was obvious that these had been prepared by Gu Dian. After putting down the cat, Gu Dian's eyes immediately turned extremely cold. He stared at Zhou like a devil and said coldly, "If I hear any rumors outside, you're dead." With a ferocious face like that of a devil, coupled with his bone-chilling voice, Zhou would probably have some qualms if it were any other time. However, due to the image of Gu Dian lifting a kitten high up in front of him, Zhou couldn't bring himself to feel any sense of awe. "Don't worry. I'm not a talkative person," Zhou said. "That's for the best," Gu Dian said coldly. He ignored Zhou and bent down to put away the 2 bowls. After taking another glance at the 4 cats playing on the grass, he turned to leave. After taking a few steps, Gu Dian stopped and said without turning his head, "Also, don't attempt to harm them. Otherwise you will also die." With that said, Gu Dian strode away. Li Xian said that not only does Gu Dian look ferocious, but he's also an extremely bad person. As long as he's given money, he's willing to do anything. From the looks of it, he might not be as bad as the rumors say. To be able to make an animal like a cat, who has its guard up, so close to him, even willing to let him get close to the kittens, perhaps he's not as ferocious as the rumors say. Zhou glanced at the 4 kittens and thought to himself, in this era, pets like dogs and kittens were no longer as favored as before. After all, they were only for ornamental purposes, but companion beasts possessed magical powers. People were more willing to spend money on companion beasts. Most of the precious pet dogs and cats in the past had become stray dogs and cats, no longer doted on by humans. Times had changed, and many things had changed. In the past, those figures who could leap onto roofs and vault over walls could become legends that were passed down by word of mouth by ordinary people. That was because very few humans had such abilities in the past. However, in this era, as long as one could advance to the legendary stage, lifting things wasn't difficult. Everyone could become a legendary figure like before. The legendary stage was no longer rare. As long as one cultivated hard, even humans with poor talent had a chance of advancing to the legendary stage in their 30s or 40s. However, it wasn't that easy to advance from the legendary stage to the epic stage. It required talent, primordial energy arts, resources, and other aspects to be stacked together. It wasn't something that could be achieved through hard work. After all, those who could be recorded in history and become figures that were basically existences that were close to mythical. In the past, when Zhou cultivated ascetic meditation, he had planned on advancing to the legendary stage while in college. Such a speed made him a genius among humans. During this period, Zhou had Ash had Dian and of, and Zhou had Zhou, Dian. One of Zhou of. Over this period of time, Zhou had repeatedly studied Lost Immortal Sutra and realized that it was very different from ordinary primordial energy arts. Typical primordial energy arts, such as Ash meditation, advanced to the next realm by breaking one's shackles. With that shackle present, a human's strength, speed, constitution, and primordial energy were all locked. It was useless no matter how many supplements one ate, as they couldn't continue improving. Only by breaking the shackles would one's limits be unlocked. While one could continue improving, one could also obtain a life providence that was close to talent. It was also commonly known as the legendary life providence. However, after repeatedly studying Lost Immortal Sutra, Zhou didn't see any description related to breaking the shackles. Therefore, up to this point, Zhou still hadn't figured out how he could advance to the legendary stage with Lost Immortal Sutra. After finally finding a supermarket on campus and buying the daily necessities he needed, Zhou returned to his dorm to pack up. Then, he took out his phone and began grinding dungeons again. It was difficult for him to make any progress in Ant Nest in a short period of time, so Zhou chose to enter underground Buddha City. After grinding the Buddha Heart Lotus in the Lotus Pond, he didn't obtain a single companion beast. The mutated skeleton ant was devoured by the gigantic blood-colored Buddha Heart Lotus. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to head to Small Buddha Temple. Before ascending the stone steps, Zhou made the blood-colored avatar activate primordial energy skill, heart meditation. The path in front of Small Buddha Temple was very strange. No matter how he walked, it was a dead end. Zhou didn't discover the reason behind it. Using heart meditation was a last resort. He only felt that heart meditation came from the Buddha Heart Lotus, so it might be of some use. To Zhou's pleasant surprise, the blood-colored avatar would suddenly die when it came to a spot where it could see Small Buddha Temple's plaque. This time, it didn't die and was even able to advance. Heart meditation is actually useful? Even Zhou was somewhat surprised. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to continue walking forward. Indeed, nothing happened along the way. However, heart meditation was a primordial energy skill. Using it required primordial energy. Heart meditation was a primordial energy skill that continuously expended primordial energy. It expended about 2 primordial energy every minute. As he ascended the stone steps, his primordial energy was finally drained when he was still a short distance away from Small Buddha Temple's entrance. Just as heart meditation stopped, the blood-colored avatar collapsed to the ground and died. The game screen also went black. Since he knew that heart meditation was useful, Zhou eagerly revived the blood-colored avatar and arrived in front of Small Buddha Temple's stone crevice. This time, after Zhou activated heart meditation, he controlled the blood-colored avatar to run at full speed towards Small Buddha Temple. However, the blood-colored avatar only reached a spot about 10 meters away from the entrance before its primordial energy was drained and it died again. With my current speed, the duration of heart meditation isn't enough for me to rush into Small Buddha Temple. Do I have to wait until I advance to the legendary stage and have sufficient primordial energy before I can use heart meditation to rush in? But I don't know how long it will take for me to advance to the legendary stage, Zhou thought again. For primordial energy skills like heart meditation that continuously expend primordial energy, some of them expend less primordial energy the higher the rank. I wonder if heart meditation is the same? Now, heart meditation is at rank 7. If I can get a rank 8 or 9 heart meditation, I might have a chance of rushing into small Buddha temple. Since he had nothing else to do, Zhou continued grinding the Buddha heart lotus at the lotus pond with the attitude of giving it a try, hoping to gain something. Chapter 56. With the silver-winged flying ant's wings, Zhou flew directly above the lotus pond to fight the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus. Although he died numerous times, it wasn't completely without result. Zhou was already rather familiar with the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus's few moves. They were all obtained at the cost of many lives. Although he was temporarily unable to slay it, he had thought of ways to kill it. However, he was lacking in strength, preventing him from realizing those methods for the time being. Zhou, get up quickly. Thankfully, we enrolled in school early, otherwise we might have missed out on a great show. Li Xian called early in the morning. Zhou put down his phone and stretched his back in exhaustion before asking, "What's the show? Didn't I tell you before that the legendary students in the school are buying powerful flying companion beasts to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus? Someone will be taking action today. Let's go take a look," Li Xian said. All right. Zhou also wanted to see a battle at the legendary stage. He got out of bed, washed up, and went out. He met Li Xian at the entrance of Four Seasons Academy. Li Xian had clearly been waiting for some time. When he saw Zhou come out, he pulled him towards Ancient Path and said, "Let's go quickly. We won't miss the exciting show if we're late." From Li Xian, Zhou learned that the person who wanted to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus was a famous third-year senior at Sunset College, Yang Lai. He was a powerful figure who had already advanced to the legendary stage. It was said that in order to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus, he had spent a huge sum of money to buy a legendary companion egg. After thinking of a way to quickly hatch it, he immediately rushed to the lotus pond. By the time the duo entered underground Buddha City and rushed to the lotus pond, they discovered that it was already surrounded by many students. Clearly, they had received the news and were here to watch Yang Lai battle the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. "Brother Xian, Brother One, you are here?" Just as the duo arrived, a boy ran over. "Su Miantu, you also applied for Sunset College?" Zhou recognized the person. Su Miantu scratched his head in embarrassment, as though there was something he couldn't say. By the side, Li Xian scolded him jokingly. "Rascal, just say it. It's not like it's embarrassing. In fact, Su Miantu should have enrolled a year ago, but to help me with the exam, he delayed it by a year." Su Miantu chuckled. "Brother Xian, a genius like you doesn't need my help. I was ignorant in the past." As the trio conversed, they suddenly heard a commotion nearby. "Jing is here." "The N from the N family? That Jing from the N family? TSK, you really live up to your reputation, a great beauty. I heard that she advanced to the legendary rank at the age of 13. She's extremely talented and comes from a prestigious family. She's rich, talented, and beautiful. She's really loved by everyone." Zhou traced the student's gazes and indeed, he saw Jing riding a white horse. However, the white horse didn't have wings, so it wasn't a white-winged flying horse. Dragon Yang one was. Ling. King, Yang, king. Only then did Zhou see Yang Lai's looks clearly. He was more than 8 meters tall with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He looked very handsome and there was a black cheetah beside him. However, the black cheetah had an eye on its forehead, making it look extremely demonic. "Jing, you came just in time. I'll slay that blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus today. No matter what drops, I'll give it to you as a congratulatory gift," Yang Lai said in high spirits. Many students revealed teasing smiles when they heard Yang Lai. Yang Lai was clearly expressing his goodwill to Jing. Li Xian said disdainfully, "Although the Yang family has some reputation in Luoyang, it's ultimately not one of the upper class. Furthermore, Many of the Yang family's businesses rely on the An family's influence in Luoyang. That punk, Yang Lai, is probably up to no good by sucking up to Anjing. However, his scheming will probably go to waste. No matter how blind the An family is, they won't think highly of the Yang family. I think in all of Luoyang, only you are qualified to match Anjing, Su Miantu said with a chuckle. Li Xian spat and said, Anjing is very proud and has a bad temper. She's cold and boring, so it's useless no matter how beautiful she is. Only a fool would want to marry such a woman. With that said, Li Xian glanced at Zhou Wen and said with a mysterious smile, Besides, I understand that a friend's sister isn't to be taken advantage of. Zhou Wen couldn't be bothered to defend himself as he pretended not to hear him. Su Miantu didn't know of Zhou Wen's relationship with the An family, so he didn't understand what Li Xian meant. He was momentarily at a loss as he looked at the duo in puzzlement. Anjing sat on the white horse without any intention of getting off. She said calmly, I don't need a gift. Besides, you can't slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Yang Lai wasn't angry when he heard that. He said with a laugh, Then, let's make a bet. If I slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, you will accept my gift. How about that? No, Anjing said without any hesitation. Are you afraid of losing? Yang Lai said provocatively. You can't slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, so the bet won't stand. There's no need for it. After Anjing said that, she ignored Yang Lai and rode the white horse to the side of the lotus pond. Yang Lai felt a little embarrassed, but Anjing's status was just too special. He didn't dare flare up at her. All right, I'll show you if I can slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Yang Lai said as he shook his arms. Immediately, 2 companion beasts were summoned by him. These were 2 silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles, but they were much larger than the average eagle. Their wingspans were over a dozen meters long, and with a flap of their wings, they flew through the air like a streak of golden light, circling above the lotus pond like 2 golden clouds. The silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles streaked across the lotus pond as their claws extended out like phantoms, instantly grabbing a Buddha heart lotus. Silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles. There are actually 2 of them. This fellow sure is willing to go all out, Li Xian said with a twitch of his lips. The silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle was a rare legendary companion beast. Such a companion beast could only be found in the Heaven Lake dimensional zone of the Heavenly Mountain. However, there were many dimensional zones near the Heavenly Mountain, so it wasn't easy to reach the Heaven Lake. Furthermore, the number of silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles was relatively small. Furthermore, they lived in a place like half-cliff that was out of sight. Killing them to drop a companion egg wasn't an easy task. If one's luck wasn't good, even an epic expert would be useless. Seeing the students looking at the pair of silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles enviously, Yang Lai felt a little smug. Without any hesitation, he ordered a pair of eagles to attack the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. The 2 silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles flew at a low altitude towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Sensing the threat, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus spat out 20 to 30 blood-colored lotus seeds that enveloped the 2 eagles. Seeing that the blood-colored lotus seeds were about to hit the 2 golden eagles, the 2 eagles didn't seem to have any intention of dodging. They were still flying forward, but their feathers were emitting a golden halo. It was as if the golden feathers on their bodies were glowing. Bam! Chapter 57. As expected of a silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle. It's indeed extraordinary. From the looks of it, this blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus will likely be slain by that punk Yang Lai, Li Xian said. Zhou Wen shook his head and said softly, That might not be the case. The 2 silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles won't be able to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Zhou Wen's research on the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus wasn't something these students could compare with. He knew very well how powerful the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was. It was impossible to slay it with 2 legendary flying companion beasts. It was unknown if it was intentional or not, but Jing, who was standing by the pool, turned her head to glance at him when he said that. Just as Li Xian was about to ask why, he suddenly saw an anomaly in the lotus pond. A silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle that had already rushed in front of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was swallowed by the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals. The other silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle's glowing claws were about to touch the petal, but the blood-colored Buddha pattern on the petal emitted a blood-colored halo. The seemingly delicate petal clashed with the golden-feathered eagle's claws, but it was unharmed. By the time the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus opened its petals once again, the swallowed silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle was only left with a skeleton. Furthermore, the bones were rapidly melting. Many of the students watching the battle drew a cold gasp. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was able to devour the legendary gold-ranked silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle and instantly corrode it. For it to be able to withstand the silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle's primordial energy skill, Golden Light Claw, was terrifying. Flower-type dimensional creatures typically had weaker physique. Among dimensional creatures of the same level, their physiques were at the bottom. However, this blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was able to withstand a powerful legendary primordial energy skill like Golden Claw. It was just too terrifying, completely subverting the average person's understanding of flower-type creatures. Yang Lai's expression was extremely ugly. He didn't dare to order the silver-eyed golden feather eagle to attack again. He hastily summoned the surviving eagle back. All the students looked at the Buddha heart lotus with fear and greed. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus clearly had more than one primordial energy skill. If a companion beast dropped, they could have a companion beast with multiple energy skills. However, the drop rate of companion beasts was low to begin with. Furthermore, even Yang Lai's two silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles had failed. No student could kill it. How do you know that the two silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles aren't a match for the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus? Only now did Li Xian have the chance to ask the question on his mind. Of course I saw it with my eyes. Zhou shrugged his shoulders and prepared to leave. In a short period of time, probably no student could slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. This lotus flower was likely a top-notch existence at the legendary stage. Unless they had a stronger companion beast or targeted its weakness, even a siege wouldn't be of much use against it. Brother One, since you can tell that the silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles aren't a match for the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, does that mean that you have the means to kill it? Su Miantu's eyes lit up as he asked Zhou. Su Miantu wasn't a bad person, but he couldn't control his mouth. He didn't lower his voice, allowing the people beside him to hear him. Yang Lai was already in a bad mood, so when he heard Su Miantu's words, he turned his head and saw Li Xian, Su Miantu, and an unfamiliar youth. Yang Lai naturally knew what kind of people Li Xian, the number one foppish scion in Luoyang, and the adopted son of the Li family, Su Miantu, were. It could even be said that he despised them. Yang Lai often thought that if he were Li Xian, his accomplishments wouldn't be limited to this with the Li family's resources. Su Miantu's unintentional words sounded like a mockery to Yang Lai. To be able to tell at a glance that the golden-feathered eagles aren't the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's match, you sure have good eyes. I wonder how I should address you? Yang Lai held back his anger as he sized up Zhou and asked. Although he was angry, he didn't wish to offend a student with a powerful background. After all, the students of Sunset College were the elites of the East District. Many of them had powerful backgrounds. Before Zhou said a word, Su Miantu cheered for him. Zhou came in second at Guide City's combat test. He's the number one genius of Guide High School. He's Brother Xian and I'm buddies. Su Miantu wasn't fooling around, but he wanted to use this opportunity to make Zhou famous, so as to let the students of Sunset College know of his existence. There were many benefits to doing so. In the future, when teams entered dimensional zones to complete missions assigned by the school, powerful students would be willing to team up with Zhou. If not, why would those powerful students be willing to team up with Zhou when no one knew who he was? Having the strong team up was a rather common mentality in today's society. However, upon hearing Su Miantu say that, it wasn't only Yang Lai. Even the other students looked at Su Miantu and Zhou mockingly. The number one genius of a certain high school, or the number one student of a certain city's college entrance exam combat test. There were too many students with such titles in Sunset College. Furthermore, Zhou had only entered Sunset College as second in the combat test. They weren't even interested in knowing who was first, much less second. If he were first in a place like the capital, people might pay attention. However, a tiny place like Guide City had nothing worth paying attention to. When Yang Lai heard that Zhou had come in second in the combat test in Guide City, he knew that Zhou likely didn't have a powerful background. Otherwise, he would have gotten first in the combat test. Only the first in a city could receive special privileges and resources from Sunset College. This was also one of the reasons why Li Xian wanted to get first. Second? That's really impressive. Yang Lai quipped. In that case, I'd like to hear what you have to say. How do you plan on killing the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus? The other students could naturally tell that Yang Lai was mocking Zhou and Su Miantu. They were only freshmen who had just matriculated and were only at the mortal stage. They hadn't even come close to the legendary stage, so how could they have the right to kill a top legendary creature like the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus? Su Miantu couldn't tolerate it as he curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Are you dumb or do you think we are? Why should we tell you the solution we came up with?" Ever since the battle in Guide Ancient City, Su Miantu was truly convinced by Zhou. From his point of view, Zhou definitely had a way to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It was only natural, so he naturally couldn't tell others the method. Chapter 58. Su Miantu didn't dare make the decision himself as he cast his gaze at Zhou, his eyes filled with encouragement. Zhou smiled bitterly inwardly. Su Miantu thought too highly of him. He didn't have the ability to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, so all he could do was shake his head at Su Miantu. Su Miantu was extremely confident in Zhou, believing that he was being humble. He continued encouraging him. "Brother Wen, you can't be too humble in a place like Sunset College. You have to showcase your absolute strength. Only then will you have a chance of obtaining more resources." Zhou felt a little depressed. He did wish to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, but he really couldn't do it. Upon seeing Zhou's troubled look, Yang Lai sneered. "To showcase your strength, you need to have the strength to do so. Otherwise, it'll be a joke." With that said, Yang Lai ignored Su Miantu and turned to walk towards Enjing. From Yang Lai's point of view, he would only be embarrassing himself if he continued tangling with people like Su Miantu, Li Xian, and Zhou. Although Su Miantu was a little infuriated, there was nothing he could do since Zhou didn't say a word. All he could do was watch the contemptuous Yang Lai turn to leave. Yang Lai came in front of Enjing and said in a gentlemanly manner, "I lost the bet. If there's anything you need me to do, I'll definitely do my best. However, there's something I don't understand. Why do you know that the silver-eyed golden-feathered eagle isn't the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's match? Could it be that you have already fought the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus?" "First, I said that there was no meaning to the bet. There's no need for you to do anything. What you can do, I can do it myself. What I can't do, you can't do it either. Second, a person who truly understands doesn't need to fight to know who's stronger." Enjing wore a calm expression, but every word she said was venomous. Zhou suspected that with Enjing's venomous personality, many people would probably want to beat her up if she wasn't born into the infamily. Yang Lai's expression was indeed ugly, alternating between livid and pale. After all, he was a student who wasn't even in his 20s. He lacked restraint and thick skin. Well said. Su Miantu seized the opportunity, and naturally wouldn't let it go. He cheered loudly, but was met with a fierce glare from Yang Lai. Jing ignored him and rode past Yang Lai on the white horse, heading for Zhou. "Your sister is coming over," Li Xian whispered as he nudged Zhou with his elbow. Zhou shook his head, indicating for Li Xian not to speak nonsense. However, before he could say a word, Jing had already arrived in front of him on a white horse. When Yang Lai and the other students saw Jing in front of Zhou, they cast their gazes over, unsure what she wanted. "Are you confident of killing the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus?" Jing stared into his eyes and asked. "There's definitely no problem. Jing, cooperate with us to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Brother Wen guarantees you that you won't be disappointed." Su Miantu didn't know of Jing's relationship with Zhou, so he imagined that Jing was interested in him. If Zhou performed well, he might be able to win her heart. Furthermore, this beauty's family background was extraordinary. She was the daughter of Luoyang's and family. In Luoyang she was like a princess. Right, Brother Wen? Su Miantu nudged Zhou and signaled to him with his eyes behind Jing's back, hinting for him to perform well. Although Zhou knew that Su Miantu had good intentions, he really couldn't do it. Furthermore, he only wished to game in peace. He had no intention of being in the limelight here, nor did he wish to have any entanglements with Jing. "You sure are daring. If Jing wanted to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, what would you have to do with her?" Yang Lai already hated Su Miantu to begin with, so he couldn't help but mock him. He vented all the anger he had suffered at Jing's hands on Su Miantu. A dog is a dog, forever relying on its master's influence. However, you should at least see clearly if that's your master. The moment Yang Lai said that, it wasn't only Su Miantu. Li Xian and Zhou Wen's expressions changed as well. Li Xian said coldly, "Yang Lai, who are you calling a dog? Say it again if you have the gut." Yang Lai sneered. "Who in Luoyang City doesn't know that your patriarch likes to raise godson? To put it nicely, he's a godson, but to put it bluntly, he's a lackey raised by your Li family. This is common knowledge. What did I say wrong?" Li Xian's eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to take action, he was held back by Su Miantu. Su Miantu wasn't angry as he looked at Yang Lai and said with a chuckle, "That's right. I'm a dog of the Li family. Furthermore, I'm proud to be a dog of the Li family. I also enjoy the Li family's favor, unlike a certain person who wishes to be the Yin family's dog. Unfortunately, the Yin family can't even be bothered to look at him. There's no point mentioning someone who's inferior to a dog." Su Miantu's words hit Yang Lai's sore spot. The Yang family did wish to rely on the Yin family, but the Yin family's attitude was somewhat ambiguous. They had never truly accepted the Yang family. Therefore, Yang Lai's expression changed drastically when he heard that. His gloomy face nearly froze as he stared intently at Su Miantu, a hint of killing intent flashing in his eyes. "Does the Li family's dog only know how to bark? If you're that capable, slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus as you said. Otherwise, don't bark here," Yang Lai said with a cold expression. Yang Lai said with a cold expression. If not for everyone watching, he wished he could immediately kill Su Miantu. Su Miantu was just about to retort when he felt a hand press down on his shoulder. Then, he heard Zhou Wen say softly, "If you want to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, let's do it together." "Brother Wen, can I really do it?" Su Miantu was overjoyed as he hurriedly asked. Zhou Wen nodded slightly and said seriously, "As long as you aren't afraid of sacrificing your companion beast." Su Miantu had gotten into a conflict with Yang Lai because of Zhou Wen, so Zhou Wen naturally couldn't sit back and watch Su Miantu be humiliated by Yang Lai. However, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It was true that Zhou Wen couldn't kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in-game, but this wasn't the game. He didn't need to face the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus alone. He still had Su Miantu and Li Xian to help him. Zhou had carefully considered the companion beasts he, Li Xian, and Su Miantu had. If he did it well and didn't make any mistakes, with his understanding of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, he should be able to slay it. There's nothing to be afraid of. Let's do it. Su Miantu turned to Yang Lai and said loudly, "Did you hear that, Yang? We'll slay it for you to see. Open your eyes wide and learn well. Don't say that we didn't teach you." "I'll be waiting," Yang Lai sneered. Chapter 59. Li Xian and Zhou Wen were the first batch of people to discover the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Zhou Wen was thinking of ways to kill it in-game, while Li Xian wasn't idle either. He was also trying his best to obtain a legendary flying companion beast to slay it. However, there were relatively few legendary companion beasts that could fly. It was even harder to find strong ones. Furthermore, Li Xian was only at the mortal stage. He needed more time and effort to incubate legendary companion beasts than at the legendary stage. Up to now, Li Xian had only hatched a legendary Sky Kong. Su Miantu was also at the mortal stage. Furthermore, he didn't have the invincible Khanate divine art, so he couldn't incubate a legendary companion beast. However, he had always been with Li Xian and had helped out when Jiang Hao betrayed him. Therefore, Li Xian gave a mortal dragon-scaled turtle companion egg to Su Miantu. Although the dragon-scaled turtle was only at the mortal stage, it lived in the Black Dragon Swamp and had extremely strong resistance to corrosive liquids. The dragon-scaled turtle was also prepared by Li Xian to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It was perfect for Su Miantu to control. Zhou Wen was aware of this situation. After calculating all the companion beasts the trio had, he was confident that they could join forces to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. To kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, apart from needing a companion beast to do battle, we also need to enter the lotus pond personally. Only then will we have 100% chance of killing it. Are you sure you want to enter the lotus pond? Zhou Wen looked at Su Miantu and Li Xian and very seriously confirmed it. Humans strive for dignity, Buddhas strive for incense. I'm definitely killing the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Su Miantu said loudly. Zhou Wen, how confident are you? Li Xian asked as he stared at Zhou Wen. If all of you follow my instructions, there's a 100% chance of success. However, the three of you have to work together without any mistakes, or it will be extremely dangerous. It's especially so for Miantu, who's controlling the dragon-scaled turtle. There can't be any slip-ups, or both of us will be in danger, Zhou Wen said to Su Miantu. Don't worry. Even if I die, I absolutely won't let anything happen to you, Su Miantu said as he patted his chest. All right, let's do it. Li Xian and Zhou Wen exchanged looks and nodded. Then let's begin. Listen to my instructions. Miantu, release the dragon-scaled turtle. Zhou Wen whispered his plan to the two. The trio made their preparations as Su Miantu released the dragon-scaled turtle. A turtle the size of a small boat appeared above the lotus pond. Not only did it have a turtle shell, but it also had black scales on it. It looked extremely odd. Typical companion beasts would immediately be corroded into a pile of bones when they touched the lotus pond water. However, the dragon-scaled turtle was completely fine. It floated in the lotus pond like a black boat. Su Miantu and Li Xian jumped onto the turtle's back. Just as Zhou Wen was about to board it, he suddenly heard a cold voice. Good intentions might not necessarily lead to good things. Sometimes, good intentions can even kill. Zhou Wen turned his head and saw Jing sitting on the white horse with a cold expression. She was the one who had said those words. Zhou Wen glanced at Jing and smiled at her before turning to get on the turtle's back. The dragon-scaled turtle tore through the pond water and green lotus leaves as it rapidly approached the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. When it was about 10 meters away from the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Zhou Wen got Su Miantu to stop the dragon-scaled turtle. Miantu, stay here to provide support for us. Make sure to constantly pay attention to Li Xian's landing spot. Follow the plan and make sure nothing goes wrong, Zhou exhorted Su Miantu. Brother One, don't worry. As long as I'm not dead, I'll definitely not let anything happen to you. Su Miantu patted his chest as a guarantee. All right. Zhou nodded and looked at Li Xian. Follow the plan. Li Xian responded and summoned his legendary companion beast, the Sky Conch. The Sky Conch resembled a conch, but it had a pair of wings. Its body was about the size of a beetle, and it was very balanced in midair. Although its flying speed was very slow, its advantage was that it could glide in the sky for extended periods of time without needing to land. A legendary Sky Conch? How is that possible? Isn't Li Xian at the mortal stage? How can he incubate a legendary Sky Conch? Among the students on the shore, someone immediately recognized the Sky Conch and couldn't help but exclaim, "Isn't it too early for all of you to be alarmed?" Li Xian chuckled as he summoned the Black Knight and Jade-Eyed White Tiger in their companion forms. The Black Knight transformed into an armor that enveloped Li Xian's body. As for the Jade-Eyed White Tiger, it transformed into a tiger soul saber that shimmered with a cold luster. The saber's hilt had a gem that resembled a tiger's eye embedded in it. Black Knight and Jade-Eyed White Tiger are both legendary companion beasts. Heavens! Isn't Li Xian at the mortal stage? What's going on? Is this fellow really that preposterous scion of the Li family? The students widened their eyes as they looked at Li Xian in disbelief. Li Xian felt a little smug. Dressed in black armor and wielding the tiger soul saber, he stepped on the Sky Conch and flew towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in a haughty manner. In contrast, Zhou paled in comparison. He summoned the mutated skeleton ant and stood on its back. Without any weapons or armor, the skeleton ant walked across the water surface towards the other side of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Miantu, pay more attention to Li Xian. Make sure he doesn't fall into the water, Zhou exhorted Su Miantu. Don't worry, Brother One, Su Miantu said as he patted his chest. Zhou didn't say another word as the mutated skeleton ant and Sky Conch flanked the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. As for Li Xian's progress, he was faster than Zhou. Zhou seemed to be deliberately lagging behind. Bam! More than 10 blood-colored lotus seeds shot out at Li Xian, instantly enveloping him and the Sky Conch, sealing off all his paths of retreat. Li Xian roared as he slashed at the blood-colored lotus seeds with the tiger soul saber. The saber was so fast that it cleaved the blood-colored lotus seeds into two before they could explode. When the two halves of the blood-colored lotus seeds flew more than a meter away, they suddenly exploded. Is that really the Li family's foppish third young master, Li Xian? Li Lai watched in astonishment as Li Xian unleashed his might. He had cleaved apart the blood-colored lotus seeds with his saber and charged at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. And while Li Xian was attracting the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's attacks, Zhou took the opportunity to order the mutated skeleton ant to charge at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. When he was less than 3 meters away from the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Zhou ordered the mutated skeleton ant to leap up. And at that moment, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus opened its petals to devour the mutated skeleton ant. If the mutated skeleton ant had been any slower, Zhou and the mutated skeleton ant would have been devoured. Now! Zhou roared. Without any hesitation, Li Xian leaped off the Sky Conch and cleaved at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus with both hands. The tiger soul saber emitted a blinding white saber beam that instantly slashed at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals. The blood-colored Buddha patterns on the petals emitted a red halo in an attempt to withstand the tiger soul saber's attack. However, the tiger soul saber's saber beam was just too sharp. Together with Li Xian's saber elemental primordial energy skill, the tiger soul saber sliced through the petals. Chapter 60. Li Xian had used up all his strength to tear through the Buddha-patterned petals. Furthermore, he was unable to dodge in midair. The sky conk's flying speed was just too slow, so it couldn't keep up with Li Xian's rhythm. It was still gliding at a high altitude, and the direction it was gliding in wasn't where Li Xian was. Suddenly, a fist appeared beneath Li Xian's feet, striking his soles. It was none other than Zhou Wen flying over. Li Xian exerted strength with his feet and stomped on Zhou Wen's fist, using the force to soar into the air. Zhou Wen also used the force of the stomp to rapidly descend. The two of them dodged the toad's poisonous water arrows simultaneously. Li Xian used the momentum to reach the lotus platform and cleaved at the toad's head. With a flash, Li Xian retreated and leaped out of the lotus platform. Bam! The toad exploded like a bomb, sending poisonous water splattering in every direction, enveloping a large area. It was as though thousands of arrows were fired simultaneously. Li Xian was in midair and was powerless to dodge. However, the sky conch that had been flying all this while happened to fly over and block Li Xian, blocking the poisonous water that spewed at him. Zhou Wen landed on the mutated skeleton ant's back and leaped up once again, flying back dozens of feet to dodge the poisonous water's splatter. The poisonous water was extremely terrifying. The sky conch's body was instantly corroded by the poisonous water like snow touching burning charcoal. With a tragic cry, it plummeted into the pool. By the time Zhou Wen landed, the mutated skeleton ant had already stopped at his feet. However, Li Xian had nowhere to use as his body plummeted straight into the pool. As for the dragon-scaled turtle that was supposed to be there to receive Li Xian, it was still a distance away from Li Xian due to Su Miantu's flustered instructions. It looked like it wouldn't be able to make it in time. Zhou Wen had just landed on the mutated skeleton ant's back when he saw this scene. It was already too late for him to order the mutated skeleton ant to rush over. He stomped hard on the mutated skeleton ant's back and flew towards the plummeting Li Xian. At the instant his back touched the pool, Zhou Wen pulled him up. However, Zhou Wen's leap was limited after all. Soon, he began plummeting. Miantu, what are you waiting for? Quickly provide support. Li Xian, who was being pulled by Zhou Wen, shouted at the nearby Su Miantu. Su Miantu watched as the duo began plummeting. He was only about 3 to 4 meters away from them. As long as he got the dragon-scaled turtle to speed up, he would be able to reach out and pull the duo. But he stood there without moving, gritting his teeth and not saying a word. The veins on his forehead throbbed, but in the end, he didn't do anything. Su Miantu, why? Li Xian wore a nasty expression. At this point, how could he not tell that Su Miantu was deliberately scamming him and Zhou Wen? From instigating Yang Lai in the beginning to leaving him in the lurch, everything was done deliberately by Su Miantu. The only person who could do this was Su Miantu, who Li Xian viewed as a confidant and knew everything about Li Xian. However, there was nothing Li Xian could do. All he could do was stare intently at Su Miantu as the duo fell into the pool. There were exclamations from the shore. After all, they were still students. Even if they didn't like Zhou Wen and Li Xian, they didn't wish for them to die. I was forced into a corner. Don't blame me. Just as Li Xian and Zhou Wen were about to fall into the pool, Su Miantu said with a ferocious expression. However, he didn't make a sound. Am I really such a failure as a person? Li Xian, who had been staring at him, understood what he was saying from the shape of his lips. He couldn't help but feel disheartened. Jiang Hao and Su Miantu, whom he thought of as good friends and brothers, had betrayed him one after another. It left him disheartened. Just as Zhou Wen and Li Xian were about to fall into the water, 2 beams of light, one white and one silver, flashed above the lotus pond. Silver light swirled behind Zhou Wen as 4 transparent silver wings appeared behind him. They rapidly flapped and pulled him and Li Xian out of the water, quickly escaping danger. Impossible! Why do you have a flying companion beast? Su Miantu was alarmed and afraid when he saw Zhou Wen flying in midair. His face contorted. Zhou Wen landed on the dragon-scaled turtle's back with Li Xian in tow. He looked at Su Miantu and said, I've given you multiple chances, but unfortunately you still did it. You suspected me all this time? That's why you deliberately hid the fact that you have a flying companion beast? Su Miantu glared at Zhou Wen in shock and anger. If that wasn't the case, how would I know if you really treat me as a friend? Zhou Wen said indifferently, I'm a cold person by nature. I don't know how to treat others well. When others treat me well, I also suspect that they have ulterior motive. Although I also wish that you really treat me as a friend, the facts prove that this world is as cruel and heartless as I imagined it to be. With that said, Zhou Wen glanced at the lotus pond beside him. He saw a beautiful girl with a pair of white wings floating in midair. She was beautiful and holy, and it was none other than the legendary angel companion beast. This angel companion beast appeared above the lotus pond almost at the same time Zhou Wen summoned the silver-winged flying ant. Thank you. Zhou Wen looked at Jing, who was riding on the white horse. He had understood Jing's hint, but he feigned ignorance because he wanted to test Su Miantu. Furthermore, with the angel companion beast appearing, even if Zhou Wen didn't like Jing, he felt that he should thank her. I was afraid that you wouldn't die and wanted to stab you. From the looks of it, there's no chance now, Jing said with a deadpan expression. Jing said expressionlessly as she extended her hand to summon the angel companion beast back. She rode the white horse and left. Su Miantu, give me a reason to let you live, Li Xian said coldly as he stared at Su Miantu. Brother Xian, I'm sorry. I was really forced. It was your second brother who forced me to do so. Please spare me. Su Miantu plopped to his knees and hugged Li Xian's leg as he pleaded. You once risked your life for me. I can spare your life, but you didn't only cause my death. There's also Zhou Wen. Your life isn't enough to make up for 2 lives. Li Xian kicked Su Miantu away and turned his back to Su Miantu. Scram. If you can leave Luoyang alive, I'll spare your life. Su Miantu's expression turned ashen. He was from the Li family and knew how powerful the Li family was. As long as Li Xian refused to spare him, there was no way he could leave Luoyang alive. Feeling despair, Su Miantu's eyes flashed with hatred. He suddenly used all his strength to lunge at Li Xian, who had his back facing him. He roared ferociously, then let's die together. Just as Su Miantu was about to lunge at Li Xian, who had his back facing him, dodged Su Miantu's lunge as though he had eyes on the back of his head. Su Miantu couldn't stop himself as he charged straight into the lotus pond. Chapter 61. Due to Su Miantu's death, Zhou Wen and Li Xian were investigated by the school, but they were quickly released. Inside the dormitory, Zhou Wen leaned back in his chair and asked Li Xian, What kind of person was your second brother? Li Xian casually sat on the floor and held a can of beer. He took a swig and slowly swallowed it before saying, Our family has a total of 3 brothers. Eldest brother, second brother, and I. Eldest brother was a genius. He was good at everything. He was publicly recognized as a super genius who could match Tianzhua in Luoyang City. He was the most outstanding talent of our Li family's generation. Unfortunately, he was unlucky and died too early. After downing another mouthful of beer, Li Xian continued, My second brother, Li Xiubai, was accomplished at a young age. Although he wasn't as impressive as in Tianzhua, he was a well-known talent of the Li family. He had quite a good reputation outside. At home, he was a figure who could sit with his uncles and discuss the Li family's important matters. He was much better than a foppish son like me. Most of the old man's godson followed his lead. However, as you can see, Jiang Hao and Su Miantu were my childhood friends. They were the 2 closest people to me in the Li family, but they betrayed me one after another. They spared no expense to help second brother kill me. Especially Su Miantu. I'm certain that he wasn't my second brother's man before he returned to Luoyang. It's only been a few days, but he wants to do this to me. You should be able to guess my second brother's character and means. When Li Xian said that, he crushed the beer can in his hand. Why, didn't you not vie with him for the Li family's businesses? Just to prevent any accidents, you treated your own brother like this? Isn't your father doing anything? Zhou Wen found it unbelievable. No, it's not because of the Li family's businesses. If it were only because of the Li family's businesses, we wouldn't have come to this, Li Xian said with a shake of his head. Then why? Zhou Wen saw Li Xian remain silent and said, "Forget it if it's not convenient to say." Li Xian shook his head slightly and sighed after a long while. The higher the level of a dimensional creature, the greater the difference in strength. Just like how it's almost impossible for a legendary creature to fight an epic creature, the difference between an epic and a mythical creature is even greater. It can be said that 10 to 100 epic humans might not be able to kill a mythical creature. They might even be wiped out. I've learned it from the textbooks. Zhou Wen felt that Li Xian was talking nonsense. Li Xian continued, "Then have you ever thought about how humans killed the first mythical creature with such a huge difference in strength? Legend has it that they were killed by the first few founders of the League. They are also the 6 League heroes of the textbooks." Zhou Wen knew that Li Xian definitely had more to say. "Then do you know how they killed mythical creatures?" Li Xian asked with a smile. "The books say that it took 3 days and 3 nights of bitter battle." Before Zhou Wen could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Li Xian. "Don't believe the nonsense in books. If they were really at the epic stage, even 60 people wouldn't be able to kill a mythical creature, much less 6, Li Xian said disdainfully. "Then how was it killed?" Zhou Wen asked curiously. "Because they have mythical companion beasts," Li Xian said. "Aren't your words a bit contradictory? Without killing the first mythical creature, how could he have a mythical companion beast?" "This doesn't make sense," Zhou Wen said. Li Xian said with a smile, "Of course it's illogical. This is because their companion beasts weren't obtained from killing mythical creatures themselves, but given to them by someone. Although they might not be considered real mythical creatures and can only be said to be larvae of mythical creatures, it's enough to make people envious." "That doesn't make sense either. If someone gave them a mythical companion beast, the person who gave it to them must have killed a mythical companion beast," Zhou Wen said with a frown. "No one can answer this question, at least I can't. I only know that there's such a department in the League's upper echelons that specializes in this matter. Some humans can obtain the qualifications like the 6 League heroes, and our Li family has such a qualification. And the person who might obtain a mythical companion beast in the future is me. If I die, this opportunity might land on second brother because I'm the person designated by the old man," Li Xian said teasingly. "I see. In that case, isn't your old man going to reign in your second brother?" Zhou Wen asked in puzzlement. If it were him, he definitely wouldn't kill his own brother over such a matter. However, people were different from each other. Zhou Wen didn't believe that his thoughts could represent everyone. In fact, he always felt that his character and thoughts were rather niche. Reign in? How? Kill my second brother? Or give up my mythical companion beast qualifications? At this point in time, I can only fight my second brother, Li Xian said with glowing eyes. He didn't seem afraid and was even vaguely excited. "You have to be careful." Although Zhou Wen had never seen Li Xiaobai in person, Jiang Hao and Su Miantu's matter had left a deep impression on him. "I'll soon advance to the legendary stage. There's nothing to be afraid of. Instead, it's you who really has to be careful. You have ruined my second brother's plans twice. With my understanding of him, he won't let you off," Li Xian said solemnly. Zhou Wen nodded slightly. He didn't believe that Li Xian was being an alarmist. It was very possible. Although private fights weren't allowed on campus, Su Miantu had dared to take action in a dimensional zone under Li Xiaobai's control. It was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be a second or third Su Miantu on campus. Thankfully, you live in a standalone building in Four Seasons Garden. The situation here isn't as complicated as an ordinary dormitory. It's a lot safer. Speaking of which, I remember that the Yin family also has a qualification to obtain a mythical companion beast. Unfortunately, you aren't the Yin family's biological son. Otherwise, you might be able to vie with Jing, Li Xian joked. Why vie with Jing? Didn't you say that Tianzhua is a genius? Isn't the Yin family's mythical companion beast qualification his? Zhou frowned. I don't know about that. When my old man told me about the mythical companion beast, he said in passing that the Yin family's candidate should be Jing. In Luoyang City, only our Li family and the Yin family have the qualifications, Li Xian said with certainty. Li Xian was in a bad mood. He had drunk quite a bit and was very drunk. After vomiting, he fell asleep on Zhou Wen's bed. Zhou Wen had no choice but to sit on the chair to game. After all, he had no intention of sleeping. Although the Li family's matter had nothing to do with him, just as Li Xian had said, Li Xiubai might be unhappy and want to finish him off as well. He had to be wary of this. However, no matter how he guarded against it, it wasn't as effective as having great strength. Chapter 62. Not long after Zhou Wen entered the game and before he reached the lotus pond, a notification popped up in-game. Silver-winged flying ant is hungry. The notification quickly vanished. Zhou Wen ignored it and continued walking forward, but to his surprise, the system would automatically notify him every 10 minutes. This fellow feeds on companion beasts, but how can companion eggs drop so easily? Zhou Wen felt somewhat depressed, but all he could do was ignore it. If Zhou Wen was rich, he could buy companion eggs to feed the silver-winged flying ant, but he wasn't rich. The living expenses Zhou Lingfeng gave him were only enough for his daily expenses. He didn't have the spare money to buy companion eggs. I should grind the instance dungeons a few more times. Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar to storm into the lotus pond. At that moment, a video went viral on Sunset College's campus intranet. It was a video of Zhou Wen and Li Xian joining forces to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It was unknown which student had recorded the video, but it clearly recorded the entire process from a bystander's point of view. However, the video had clearly been edited. The entire video only ended with Zhou Wen summoning Silver Wing and flying with Li Xian. Seriously, isn't Li Xian the prodigal son of the Li family? How can he be so strong? He summoned 3 legendary companion beasts at the mortal stage and even slayed the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus that so many legendary seniors in school can't? Li Xian is too cool. The other freshman isn't bad either. Although he's a little weaker, he has 2 companion beasts. However, why do those 2 companion beasts look so unfamiliar? I don't think I've seen them before. Are they at the mortal stage or the legendary stage? Li Xian was completely popular. Due to Li Xian's fame, Zhou Wen didn't attract much attention. The video appeared on Qiao Siyuan's desk computer. He sat in front of the computer and watched it several times with his arms crossed. Did you notice anything? Qiao Siyuan asked Liz. Li Xian is very strong. This fellow is quite interesting. He acted really well in the past. None of the 3 brothers of the Li family are easy to deal with. Thankfully, the eldest had bad luck and died early. Otherwise, there might have been a chance to shake the Yin families standing in Luoyang. Liz watched it several times as well, but Qiao Siyuan remained silent. She had long lost her patience. Qiao Siyuan shook his head slightly. That's not what I'm talking about. Have you noticed Zhou Wen? Naturally. Although Li Xian is very strong, the commander should be Zhou Wen, Liz said. Qiao Siyuan stared at the computer screen as his eyes lit up. No, I'm not talking about that. Look carefully. Zhou Wen has done 3 consecutive jumps with all his might. Such a jump would probably be difficult even for you and me to complete without the support of a special primordial energy skill or primordial energy art. Liz was slightly taken aback as she looked carefully again. Gradually, a look of surprise appeared on her face. Indeed, without the support of a primordial energy skill or primordial energy art, it's very difficult for a human's body to complete 3 consecutive jumps under gravity. He clearly didn't use a primordial energy skill, which means his primordial energy art is extraordinary. Isn't it written on the information? He cultivates the ascetic meditation and has been cultivating it for many years, Qiao Siyuan said. But ascetic meditation is a primordial energy art that focuses on strength and constitution. It doesn't have the characteristic of continuous bursts. From the looks of it, Zhou has hidden it well. It's unlikely he cultivates in ascetic meditation, Liz said. To her surprise, Qiao Siyuan said with certainty, "No, I'm very certain that Zhou cultivates in ascetic meditation. At the very least, he was definitely cultivating in ascetic meditation before we met him in Guide City." Why? Liz was somewhat puzzled. Don't tell me you didn't carefully size up a youth who suddenly appeared under those circumstances? Back then, his skin was slightly yellow and his eyes seemed to have a dark golden luster. Those are the characteristics of someone who cultivates in ascetic meditation for a long period of time. Back then, he must have cultivated in ascetic meditation for several years, but now those characteristics can't be seen on him, Qiao Siyuan said. But it hasn't been many days since we met him in Guide City. In such a short period of time, even if he cultivates in another primordial energy art, it's unlikely that he can completely replace the ascetic meditation he cultivated for several years, right? At the very least, the characteristics of his body will slowly deteriorate. It's impossible for it to completely disappear in a short period of time. That's the problem. Zhou met Jing Daoxian, and not long after that, the ascetic meditation primordial energy art he cultivated in for several years was replaced by another primordial energy art. And not long after that, the Yin family gave the spot that originally belonged to Enjing to Zhou. Is there a connection? Qiao Siyuan rapped the table with his fingers as he slowly said. Liz's body trembled. Minister, are you saying that the Yin family and the devil, Jing Daoxian, have some sort of connection? No, I never said that. However, Zhou is indeed abnormal. Perhaps something happened between him and Jing Daoxian. To change a primordial energy art he cultivated in for several years in such a short period of time is something few people can do. It can be said that there are only a handful of people in the league, and Jing Daoxian happens to be one of them, Qiao Siyuan said. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that Zhou is Jing Daoxian's accomplice? We should bring him back for interrogation as soon as possible. Liz's eyes lit up. There's indeed a need for that. However, this is Luoyang, not our headquarters in the capital, Qiao Siyuan said with a sigh. We can apply for a cross-district arrest warrant from the higher-up. Sunset College wouldn't dare stop us from arresting him, Liz said. Sunset College wouldn't dare, but there's someone who dares, Qiao Siyuan said indifferently. And Tianzhua? That can't be right. He dares to openly defy the League's laws? Liz frowned. He really dares, Qiao Siyuan said with certainty. After a moment of silence, Qiao Siyuan added, however, from Enjing and Tianzhua's attitude, they must be very displeased that Zhou took away the spot that should have belonged to Enjing. Otherwise, the mighty overseer wouldn't have deliberately criticized an ordinary high school student while patrolling Guide City. And Jing also wouldn't have specially transferred to Guide High School to beat Zhou up. Then what do you mean, Minister? Liz probed. Immediately apply for a cross-district arrest warrant and bring Zhou back immediately. We have to be fast. When the time comes, even if the Yin family receives the news and wants to rescue him, we should have already gotten everything we want to know. Besides, Tianzhua might not want to rescue him, Qiao Siyuan said indifferently. Chapter 63. Today's weather was pretty good. Zhou moved a chair and lay in the yard, basking in the sun as he gamed. As school hadn't officially started, there was no training or missions issued by the school. Zhouwen's life was rather comfortable. He had been attempting to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus alone, but unfortunately, he had failed. Thankfully, his efforts over this period of time hadn't gone to waste. He had obtained an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg, but before he could warm it up, he fed it to the silver-winged flying ant. Typical companion beasts only needed to attach themselves to their owner's body to absorb the primordial energy that seeped out of their owner's body to survive. They could also slowly recover from injuries without needing to eat. At most, they could absorb some primordial energy crystals to quickly recover their primordial energy. However, the silver-winged flying ant had to devour companion eggs or companion beasts. Otherwise, the game would constantly indicate that it was in a hungry state. Zhouwen ignored it in the beginning, but as time passed, the game indicated that the silver-winged flying ant would vanish in 24 hours due to prolonged starvation. Therefore, Zhouwen had no choice but to feed it the Buddha heart lotus companion egg that dropped to temporarily resolve its urgent situation. Zhouwen was gaming in the yard, while half lying down. Next door, Anjing had already finished her morning cultivation and walked out of the cultivation room. She walked to the balcony on the second floor, hoping to look into the distance to relieve her psychological stress and continue her cultivation. He subconsciously glanced at the yard beside him and immediately saw Zhouwen gaming in the yard while basking in the sun. He immediately felt his mood turn sour. Even if it's as Mom said, that his talent is better than mine, so what? Talent doesn't determine a person's achievements. To be addicted to gaming and escape from reality after suffering a little setback, what right does such a person have to compete for a mythical companion beast on my behalf? Besides, his talent might not be better than mine. Anjing watched for a while before turning to walk downstairs. At the same time, she muttered to herself, "Mom, just watch. I'll prove that I'm better than Zhouwen. I can fight for the rights to own a mythical companion beast myself. There's no need for Zhouwen." Zhouwen. Just as Zhouwen was happily grinding, he suddenly heard someone call his name. He turned his head and saw Anjing standing in the yard on the other side of the fence, staring at him. "What's the matter?" Zhouwen glanced at Anjing before lowering his head to continue gaming on his phone. "The sun-strafing art is real. You can cultivate it." Anjing paused before saying, "If you don't believe me, you can call Uncle Feng. He'll help you verify its authenticity." Zhouwen didn't care about the authenticity of the sun-strafe art. After all, he had no way of cultivating it. "Why did you give me the sun-strafe art?" Zhouwen asked as he played. "You must be indignant about losing to me last time, right?" Anjing said to Zhouwen. "There's no unwillingness. I'm convinced." He really didn't wish to have any more entanglements with Anjing. It was best if the two of them could get along like strangers. Anjing swallowed the words she had prepared. She felt a little uncomfortable as she bit her lip and said, "I'll give you 3 months to cultivate the sun-strafe art to advance to the legendary stage. With your foundation, 3 months should be enough. Then, we'll fight again. If you don't advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, I won't show any mercy." After a pause, Anjing added, "Don't say that I'm bullying you. I'll get someone to deliver primordial energy crystals and other cultivation necessities to you on time. If you need primordial energy skills or anything else, you can give me a list. I'll think of a solution for you. Remember, you only have 3 months." Zhouwen felt that Anjing was being unreasonable, so he frowned and said, "I admit defeat. You've won. There's no need to go through so much trouble." Zhouwen didn't wish to take advantage of the infamily, nor did he wish to waste time competing with Anjing again. It was meaningless to him. Even if he defeated Anjing, he wouldn't gain anything. "You have to fight. Remember, I'm only giving you 3 months. When the time comes, I definitely won't show any mercy," Anjing said coldly before turning to leave. She was afraid that if she continued looking at Zhou Wen's detestable look, she wouldn't be able to resist the urge to beat him up. Why must you fight me? Zhou Wen found it odd. If Jing hated him because of Ouyang Lan's remarriage, she could have beaten him up now. There was no need to go through so much trouble. I want to prove that I'm better than you. With that said, Jing walked into her dormitory without looking back. Zhou Wen found it somewhat baffling. In terms of excellence, Zhou Wen only had a little fame in Guide City. However, Jing was publicly recognized as a genius girl in a big city like Luoyang. She had advanced to the legendary stage at the age of 14, while Zhou Wen had yet to advance to the legendary stage. There was no way to compare the two. Are all the people from prestigious families so eccentric? Li Xiubai schemed to kill his younger brother for a qualification. And Jing is equally baffling. Zhou Wen shook his head slightly. After all, he had no intention of fighting Jing, much less cultivating the sun's strafe art. As for whether he could advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, Zhou Wen was still working on it. Of course, he hoped that he could advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, but the Lost Immortal Sutra was just too strange. It was impossible to deduce with common sense. After Jing returned to her building, she couldn't help but head to the balcony on the 2nd floor. She secretly glanced at Zhou Wen in the yard and saw that he was still basking in the sun and gaming. He didn't feel any sense of danger from her words, nor did he have any intention of working hard. She couldn't help but bite her lip. It wasn't easy for Zhou Wen to wait for Jing to leave, but before he could game for long, someone came to his door. Furthermore, it wasn't just one person, but 4. Zhou Wen looked up and saw a total of 4 people. He didn't know 3 of them, and the only one he knew was Gao Yang, who he had a grudge with because of Li Weiyang. Zhou Wen originally imagined that Gao Yang and company were here for revenge, but to his surprise, when Gao Yang saw Zhou Wen sitting in the yard, he greeted him with a beaming smile. Zhou Wen, do you still remember me? 4th-year senior, Gao Yang. What's the matter? Zhou Wen continued gaming, having no intention of opening the door to invite them in. Gao Yang wasn't angry as he continued chuckling. We can be considered to have gotten to know each other through a fight. It wasn't anything serious in the past. If I've done anything wrong, I'll apologize to you today. Regardless of who was right or wrong, let's just let bygones be bygones. How about that? Gao Yang naturally wouldn't reconcile with Zhou Wen for no reason. Typically, when students saw the video of Li Xian and Zhou Wen battling the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, they would only find Li Xian extremely powerful and Zhou Wen much dimmer. However, people with sharp eyes knew that Zhou Wen's role in the battle was far greater than Li Xian's. Li Xian was indeed very strong, but a student as strong as him could still be found in Sunset College. After all, Li Xian hadn't advanced to the legendary stage, and there were many legendary students in the school. They were enough to replace Li Xian in battle. Chapter 64. Sure, Zhou Wen said with a nod. After all, he hadn't suffered any losses from the previous incident. The ones who had suffered were Gao Yang and Su Mei, so there was naturally nothing that couldn't be resolved. Gao Yang was very happy to hear that. He directly pushed the door open and walked into the courtyard. As he walked, he said, "There's another reason why I came to find you this time. Let me introduce them to you. These 3 are my classmates from the academy and are also your seniors. This is Hui Haifeng. You've just entered the academy, so you might not have heard of this name. However, once you get familiar with the academy, you will definitely hear of this name." Zhou Wen, hello. Hui Haifeng extended his hand in a friendly manner. Hello, I'm gaming. Get straight to the point. Zhou Wen was controlling the blood-colored avatar to fight in the ant nest. There were vigor ants everywhere like a tidal wave, so he couldn't divert his attention to shake Hui Haifeng's hand. It wasn't that he was being disrespectful. Gao Yang and the other 2 were clearly displeased, but Hui Haifeng didn't mind at all. He said with a smile, I saw the video of you battling the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. It's really impressive, especially your judgment and commanding skills. They truly astonished me. It's as though you can predict the future. The only pity is that something happened to your teammate, preventing you from slaying the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. Noticing that Zhou had no intention of continuing, Hui Haifeng continued, I'm here to invite you to join our team to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. Not interested. Zhou was already rather familiar with the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. He believed that it wouldn't take long for him to slay it in-game without taking any risk. Gao Yang persuaded, Zhou reconsider. Hui Haifeng is much stronger than Li Xian. These two are also legendary experts ranked in the top 20 in our school. If you join them in killing the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, it's almost certain that you will succeed. You won't need to take too much risk. It can be said that there are only benefits and no disadvantages. Sorry, I'm really not interested. Zhou shook his head once again. Now, he was grinding the ant nest dungeon with all his might, hoping to have a companion egg drop to feed the silver-winged flying ant. For this, he didn't even head to the lotus pond. Instead, he chose ant nest, which had more dimensional creatures. He didn't have the time to kill the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus with Hui Haifeng and company. However, on careful thought, he felt that what Su Miantu had said was right. In a place like Sunset College, he needed to showcase his strength to obtain more opportunities. However, Zhou didn't need these opportunities at all. Instead, these opportunities would affect his gaming and become an obstacle. Gao Yang was somewhat unhappy. He viewed Zhou in a different light because Hui Haifeng admired him greatly. He couldn't tell how strong Zhou was. Hui Haifeng patted Gao Yang on the shoulder, making him swallow his words. Then, he looked at Zhou and said, How about this? I'll hire you to help us slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. If you have any requests, you can raise them. Just as Zhou was about to reject them and quickly send them away so that he could game in peace, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He looked up at Hui Haifeng and asked, Any condition? That depends on whether it's worth it, Hui Haifeng said with a smile. You can hire me, but I want a legendary companion egg. Zhou directly stated his request. He had grinded ant nest all day and killed countless vigor ant. If he was lucky, one companion egg would drop. If he was unlucky, he wouldn't even get one. It was barely enough to feed the silver-winged flying ant. If he fed the silver-winged flying ant a legendary companion egg, it might be able to grow faster. It might not starve it so quickly. Gao Yang was somewhat displeased when he heard that. Zhou, aren't you asking for too much? The chances of a companion egg dropping from the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus aren't high to begin with. Aren't you making things difficult for us by asking for a legendary companion egg now? That's my price. If you want something cheaper, you can find someone else, Zhou said without looking up as he gamed. Gao Yang was about to say something when Hui Haifeng beat him to it. A legendary companion egg isn't a problem. What type do you want? Anything is fine. Zhou only used it as food. He didn't have any special requirements for its type. Alright, I can give it to you tonight. Can you come with us to the Lotus Pond tomorrow? Hui Haifeng said without hesitation. Zhou finally looked up at Hui Haifeng and said, Sure, but I have another condition. Zhou, don't go overboard, Gao Yang said unhappily. It's fine. Go ahead. Hui Haifeng's expression didn't change, as though he thought nothing of it. If I go, everyone has to obey my commands. Before taking action, I need to have a detailed understanding of the companion beasts you will be using. If you are going into battle yourself, I need to know your combat standards and primordial energy skills, Zhou said. No problem. Hui Haifeng agreed readily. Also, I won't be fighting personally like last time. I'll only be in charge of commanding, Zhou added. What I fancy is your commanding ability. There's no need for you to take the risk, Hui Haifeng said with a smile. Deal. When will my legendary companion egg be delivered? Zhou lowered his head and continued gaming. 8 in the evening. Hui Haifeng thought for a moment before giving a time. After discussing the details, Hui Haifeng and Gao Yang left. On the way, Gao Yang said unhappily, Haifeng, I really can't tell. Is Zhou really as important as you make him out to be? We have already watched the video of his battle with the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus many times. We already know what to do. With our strength, we can easily kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus ourselves. Why would we need to spend so much money to hire him? Seeing and doing are two different things. Besides, we only saw a portion of it. We still don't know if the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus has any other tricks up its sleeve. We don't know, and neither does Zhou. What's the use of having him? Gao Yang still couldn't figure it out. I have a nagging feeling that Zhou is somewhat different. Just treat it as buying insurance, Hui Haifeng said with a smile. At 8 in the evening, someone indeed delivered a legendary companion egg. At the same time, there was an agreement. After Zhou saw that there was nothing wrong with it, he signed the agreement and accepted the legendary companion egg. After closing the door and returning to the cultivation room, Zhou took out the legendary companion egg from the box. At the same time, he summoned the silver-winged flying ant. He wanted to see how the silver-winged flying ant could devour a companion egg in real life. When the silver-winged flying ant saw the companion egg, it flew over and opened its strange mouth. It bit the companion egg and sucked, instantly sucking it dry until only its outer layer was left. Chapter 65. The silver and red light on the silver-winged flying ant's body intensified as it enveloped its entire body like a gigantic flame. When the flame gradually converged, revealing the silver-winged flying ant's figure, Zhou eyes lit up. The silver-winged flying ant was more than twice its previous size. It was about the same size as the silver-winged flying ant he had killed, but its appearance wasn't identical. There were red patterns on the silver-winged flying ant's silver body. The rings intersected with silver, making the back half of its body look like a wasp. What was even stranger was that the ant's tail had a silver sting that resembled a wasp's stinger. Is this growth or mutation? Zhou was somewhat astonished. He remembered that the person who had delivered the companion egg had said that it was a fire wasp companion egg. No matter how he looked at it, the silver-winged flying ant seemed to have obtained a portion of the fire wasp's characteristics. He hurriedly looked at the game stats and realized that the silver-winged flying ant's stats had indeed undergone a huge change. Silver-winged flying ant. Legendary, mature, legendary life providence. King of low-altitude strength. 17 speed, 20 constitution, 16 primordial energy, 19 talent skill. Silver wing flash, magical needle companion form. Wings. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. With the silver-winged flying ant's stats, it could be said to be a top-notch legendary companion beast, especially its speed. Typically, the upper limit of a legendary stats was 18, so 20 points could be described as explosive. Although the primordial energy was slightly lower than speed, it was still an explosive value. What surprised Zhou even more was that the silver-winged flying ant had an additional primordial energy skill called Magical Needle, making it a companion beast with 2 skills. It could be considered an excellent grade companion beast. Although 2 primordial energy skills wasn't much compared to the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, which had several skills, the silver-winged flying ant was already considered an excellent grade companion beast. When he looked at Magical Needle's stats, Zhou was even more delighted. It was a long-range offensive primordial energy skill. The silver-winged flying ant could release a magical needle to strike a target from afar. With this silver-winged flying ant, there's no need to worry about killing the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Without a thought, Zhou chose to enter the game dungeon after unsummoning the silver-winged flying ant. Without a doubt, Zhou was entering underground Buddha City. Now, the silver-winged flying ant was large enough for a person to ride on. Zhou got the blood-colored avatar to ride the silver-winged flying ant and quickly flew towards the lotus pond. A speed of 20 was much faster than when he ran. It was like the difference between a horse carriage and a sports car. Soon, he arrived beside the lotus pond. The blood-colored avatar jumped off the silver-winged flying ant's back and stood by the lotus pond to watch the battle. The silver-winged flying ant flew towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in the middle of the pond without any hesitation. Bang! Bang! More than 10 blood-colored lotus seeds enveloped the silver-winged flying ant. It flapped its 4 wings and left afterimages in midair, easily dodging the range of the blood-colored lotus seeds. A speed of 20 was just too fast. In a blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals contracted in a bid to devour the silver-winged flying ant. Just as it was about to be devoured, the 4 wings on the silver-winged flying ant's back flowed with silver light. Like a jet, it instantly dodged several meters to the side and dodged the devouring of the petals. At the same time, its sharp claws slashed at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals like blades. The petals shimmered with blood-colored Buddha patterns that emitted a halo that blocked the silver-winged flying ant's claws. Although the silver-winged flying ant's strength was considered at the pinnacle of the legendary stage, it was unable to tear through the petals without the augmentation of a primordial energy skill. The petals didn't split apart, but they opened by themselves, revealing the venomous toad on the lotus platform. It opened its mouth and spewed a venomous arrow at the silver-winged flying ant. As the silver-winged flying ant easily dodged it, its tail flashed with a silver beam, shooting into the venomous toad's forehead. Bam! The venomous toad exploded, filling the sky with venomous arrows. However, the speed of the venomous arrows couldn't match the silver-winged flying ant's flying speed. After losing the venomous toad, the lotus platform was completely exposed. The lotus seeds that resembled blood crystals revealed their sharp edges as they emitted a blood-colored halo. The silver-winged flying ant didn't stop as the silver needle on its tail shimmered, shooting another magical needle at the lotus platform. The magical needle's attack range was only about 10 meters. It wasn't too far, but it was quite powerful. The Buddha heart lotus retracted its petals and once again used the blood-patterned Buddha glow to block it. However, it was penetrated by the magical needle and stabbed into the lotus platform. At the instant the magical needle stabbed into the lotus platform, a blood-colored explosion erupted like a volcanic eruption. 20 to 30 pillars of blood spewed out, turning into a rain of blood that blanketed an area of nearly 20 meters. Anything that came into contact with the blood rain was corroded into a bloody liquid. Even the other Buddha heart lotuses and lotus leaves that grew in the lotus pond were no exception. Even the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals were corroded by the blood rain, becoming riddled with holes. Thankfully, the silver-winged flying ant was fast enough, allowing it to dodge the spray that covered a large area. Otherwise, it would probably have been melted into a bloody liquid. After the blood was all splattered, Zhou ordered the silver-winged flying ant to charge forward. At that moment, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus didn't have much ability to resist. It didn't take long for the lotus platform to be sliced open. Ding! Killed legendary creature, mutated Buddha heart lotus. Discovered dimensional crystal. A dimensional crystal dropped from the mutated Buddha heart lotus and was about to fall into the pond. Thankfully, Zhou was quick enough to order the silver-winged flying ant to grab the dimensional crystal. Mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal. Zhou carefully sized up the words on the dimensional crystal and was immediately delighted. His slightly depressed mood from not having a companion egg drop instantly turned for the better. Although the mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal wasn't as valuable as a companion egg, its primordial energy skill might be able to help him rush into small Buddha temple. The primordial energy skill of an ordinary Buddha heart lotus is heart meditation, but the mutated Buddha heart lotus has several primordial energy skills. I wonder if absorbing its primordial energy skill crystal will also obtain heart meditation? Zhouwen wasn't sure. The silver-winged flying ant brought the mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal back to the blood-colored avatar's side. When the blood-colored avatar touched the crystal's energy immediately flowed into its body. Almost at the same time, Zhouwen felt a scorching energy flow out of the phone. It instantly filled his body, making him feel like there was a furnace in his body. All his sweat broke out as though he had just been scooped out of the water. After a while, just as Zhouwen believed that he was about to be roasted into a jerky, the scorching heat finally subsided. Instead, his body felt cool. Especially his heart, there was an indescribable sense of comfort. It was a miraculous feeling of calmness and coolness. At the same time, many wonderful pieces of information surged into Zhouwen's brain. Chapter 66. Zhouwen glanced at the blood-colored avatar's stats and saw that the heart meditation in the primordial energy skill had vanished. Replacing it was blood meditation. Zhouwen attempted to activate blood meditation as a cool aura surged out of his heart. The aura flowed through his blood to every corner of his body, making him feel indescribably refreshed and comfortable. As for Zhouwen's skin, it suffused a strange flush that made him look a little odd. It felt somewhat different from heart meditation. Furthermore, the primordial energy expenditure seemed to be much slower. 1 point of primordial energy could last nearly 3 minutes. With Zhouwen's upper limit of 10 primordial energy, he could use blood meditation for about half an hour. If blood meditation is like heart meditation and can restrain small Buddha temple's mysterious powers, it'll be enough for me to run a few rounds on the stone steps in front of small Buddha temple. Zhouwen didn't waste any more time as he got the blood-colored avatar to ride the silver-winged flying ant and fly towards small Buddha temple. Indeed, as Zhouwen had imagined, blood meditation and heart meditation had the same ability. After the blood-colored avatar activated heart meditation, it ran up the stone steps until it reached small Buddha temple's entrance without any accidents. Small Buddha temple was in a dilapidated state. The plaque on the door had already faded and many parts of the temple's walls had collapsed. Pushing open the dust-covered door, Zhouwen saw the scene inside and was slightly taken aback. He was already prepared to fight powerful dimensional creatures, but there were no dimensional creatures in the yard. There was only a stone monument erected in the middle of the yard. Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Zhouwen couldn't help but feel puzzled when he saw the biggest words on the stone monument. The Great Perfection of Wisdom Sutra was a well-known name. In the past, it was the theoretical foundation of Mahayana Buddhism. After the dimensional storms, a Buddhist believer had figured out a primordial energy art from it. Together with the Agama Sutra, it was one of the 2 major Buddhist primordial energy arts. They were both epic primordial energy arts that were in no way inferior to the Li family's invincible connate divine art. However, Zhouwen had never heard of the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. The name sounded like a joke no matter how he looked at it. He got the blood-colored avatar to walk closer and carefully read the content. After reading it for a while, he immediately felt his head swell as though it was about to explode. This sutra is odd. Zhouwen was alarmed. Just as he was about to move his gaze away from the scripture, he suddenly felt the flow of primordial energy in his body slow down. Ever since Zhouwen cultivated the Lost Immortal Sutra, it had been automatically circulating without him needing to deliberately cultivate it. Now, the Lost Immortal Sutra's rotation had suddenly slowed down. This was something that had never happened before, but after the Lost Immortal Sutra's flow slowed down, Zhouwen felt the splitting headache ease. When Zhouwen read the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra again, he didn't feel as uncomfortable as before. Zhouwen was surprised as he continued reading the scriptures. He realized that the more scriptures he read, the slower the flow of lost Immortal Sutra became. There were just too many words on the monument. After reading for a while, Zhou was about to continue reading when he suddenly saw the screen turn black. The blood-colored avatar had died. Ah! Only then did Zhou recall that he had blood meditation activated all this time. After reading the scriptures for so long, blood meditation had drained his primordial energy and stopped circulating. From the looks of it, small Buddha temple is the same as the stone step. There's an evil force enveloping it. Without blood meditation to protect me, death awaits me. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have read the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra, Zhou thought to himself. After dripping his blood to transform and re-entering the underground Buddha city dungeon, Zhou first went to the lotus pond. He planned on grinding the mutated Buddha heart lotus again. It would naturally be best if a companion egg dropped. Even if it didn't, a primordial energy crystal would be enough to replenish his primordial energy. However, after spending so much effort, he finally killed the mutated Buddha heart lotus again, only to find a Strength 14 crystal. The blood-colored avatar picked up the Strength crystal and absorbed it, but its Strength stat didn't increase. It remained at 10. From the looks of it, even if I cultivate the lost Immortal Sutra, there's still a bottleneck. I can't exceed the limit of 10 points at the mortal stage. Zhou was somewhat disappointed. After killing all the Buddha heart lotuses and replenishing his primordial energy with great difficulty, Zhou headed for small Buddha temple once again. This time, Zhou didn't waste any time at the stone monument. After entering the temple, he ran straight for the temple hall that faced the main door. The temple hall was already in a dilapidated state. The roof had collapsed and the door was slanted, as though it would collapse at any moment. There wasn't a plaque on the door, so it was unknown what the temple's name was. The blood-colored avatar pushed forward, causing the door to creak as it fell into the temple hall. With a loud bang, it stirred up a cloud of dust. As he looked at the dust-filled temple, the first thing he saw was a Buddha statue. Although it was a cartoonish Buddha statue in-game, it still gave Zhou a fright. The Buddha statues Zhou had seen were typically benevolent and had a dignified and elegant posture. Only a few guardian Vajras would have angry looks. However, deities like the guardian Vajras wouldn't be placed in the main hall. As for the Buddha statue in the main hall, it had a face that resembled a devil's. Although it didn't have an angry expression, it left one shuddering as though it was staring coldly at them. Bam! Zhou only managed to take a glance before the blood-colored avatar exploded the moment it stepped into the temple hall, turning into a pool of blood. The game screen also turned black. Zhou broke out into a cold sweat. Small Buddha temple sure is creepy. I can die just by taking a look. Thankfully, I didn't go there with my real body. Otherwise, no matter how many lives I have, it wouldn't be enough. I wonder how those human seniors explored dimensional zones in the past. To have their present accomplishments, I'm afraid countless lives have been sacrificed. Although Zhou had read stories of soldiers sacrificing themselves while exploring dimensional zones back when he was in school, it wasn't as shocking as experiencing it for himself. Zhou thought again. After entering the temple, even blood meditation is useless. However, there's a stone monument with the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra in the temple. It might be of some use, but it's clearly a primordial energy art. I've already cultivated the lost Immortal Sutra, so it's impossible for me to change to another primordial energy art. Furthermore, small Buddha temple is so strange. Who knows if there's a problem with the primordial energy art? After some hesitation, Zhou decided to enter small Buddha temple and memorize the scriptures inside. As for functions like taking pictures, he didn't even need to think about it. Ordinary phones couldn't capture the scenes on the mysterious phone, so all Zhou could do was memorize them himself. The scriptures were too long, but thankfully, they weren't like the lost Immortal Sutra, which he couldn't memorize. Zhou only memorized a few paragraphs at a time. He would leave small Buddha temple when it was about time and recover his primordial energy. By the time Zhou finished memorizing the scriptures, he realized that it was already daybreak. He hadn't slept the entire night. Chapter 67. However, the circulation path this time wasn't the Lost Immortal Sutra's path. Instead, it was a brand new path, as though it was a completely different primordial energy art. Lesser Prajna Paramitha Sutra? Zhou immediately recalled that the small perfection of wisdom sutra he had memorized was likely to circulate in such a manner. As the primordial energy circulated, Zhou felt as though his cells had come to life. His entire body felt hot and itchy, as though countless worms were crawling under his skin. Zhou resisted the urge to reach out and grab it. In fact, he really didn't dare move. When the Lost Immortal Sutra circulated in his body, he could move however he wanted, but the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra was different. The rapid flow of primordial energy made Zhou afraid to move, afraid that his primordial energy would go astray. After sitting on the sofa for quite some time, Zhou felt his body tremble as though some shackles had been severed. His body felt indescribably relaxed as the hot and itchy feeling vanished. Zhou could sense that he had gained a basic mastery of the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. He opened his eyes and wanted to look at his phone, but when he saw his hands holding it, he jumped in fright. His palms were covered in skin flakes. Zhou reached out and tore off a huge piece of skin flakes. Not only did his palms not feel any pain, but they also felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Soon, Zhou realized that it wasn't just his hands. His entire body had shed a layer of skin. Large pieces of dead skin could be easily torn off. Zhou had no choice but to enter the bathroom. After soaking in the hot water, the layer of dead skin on his body peeled off, revealing the delicate new skin inside. It had a faint jade-like luster. Zhou came out of the shower and looked at himself in the mirror. He was basically no different from before, except that he looked more energetic and clean. After returning to the living room, Zhou logged back into the game. He couldn't help but be alarmed when he saw the blood-colored avatar's stats. After mastering the Lost Immortal Sutra, all 4 of his stats were at 10. It was useless no matter how much he absorbed dimensional crystals. They wouldn't grow any further. But now, his physique had become 11 points. Zhou subconsciously looked at his other stats, but there were no changes. Even in the primordial energy art column, there was still only the Lost Immortal Sutra. There was no small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. What's going on? Why isn't it displayed in the game even though I've clearly mastered the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Could it be that the phone game can't recognize such primordial energy arts? Zhou found it odd as he attempted to circulate the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra and realized that it was very smooth. Clearly, he had gained a basic mastery of it. Zhou attempted to circulate the Lost Immortal Sutra again, and his primordial energy immediately resumed the circulation method of the Lost Immortal Sutra. It automatically circulated in his body, appearing identical to before without any changes. Strange, what's going on? Zhou made a few attempts and realized that he could freely switch between the Lost Immortal Sutra and Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra without any obstruction. Zhou rarely heard of people cultivating 2 primordial energy arts at the same time. One could learn many primordial energy skills, but the implications of primordial energy arts were too great. Typically, the higher the level of primordial energy arts, the greater the conflict. It was very difficult to cultivate 2 primordial energy arts at the same time, especially epic primordial energy arts. If one cultivated 2 at the same time, they might even suffer a chi deviation and die. He had never seen someone who could freely switch between 2 primordial energy arts like Zhou. Zhou was just about to try using the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra to enter the temple hall when he heard his phone ring. Zhou, it's almost time. Let's gather at the lotus pond. Hui Haifeng's voice sounded from the phone. Got it. Zhouwen looked at the time and realized that it was almost 9. He hadn't slept the entire night, but he didn't feel tired. After packing his things, Zhouwen rushed to underground Buddha City. Zhouwen, you made us wait so long, Gao Yang said unhappily. I don't think I'm late, right? Zhouwen looked at the time. There were still more than 10 minutes to the agreed time. Let's not talk about that. This is the information on our companion beast. Take a look. Hui Haifeng handed a tablet to Zhouwen. There were detailed records of the 4 companion beasts, including Hui Haifeng. There were also videos of the companion beasts releasing their skills, allowing Zhouwen to easily understand their abilities. After carefully reading all the information, Zhouwen looked up at Hui Haifeng and asked, Are you planning on using these 4 legendary companion beasts to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus without fighting? After all, we only have 1 life. It's best not to take risks if possible. Hui Haifeng looked at Zhouwen and asked, If 4 companion beasts aren't enough, I can think of something else. As long as your control isn't too bad, these 4 companion beasts should be enough. However, there's something I need to say first. You have to obey my commands absolutely. If any problems occur because of your disobedience, I won't take any responsibility. The companion eggs won't be returned either, Zhouwen said. No problem. We'll follow your arrangements. Hui Haifeng was rather easygoing. All right, I'll explain the detailed plan first. However, a plan is just a plan. When the real battle begins, follow my orders. Zhouwen explained his plan. Hui Haifeng and company expressed no objections after hearing that. One of the girls named Nana looked at Zhouwen with interest and asked, If we fight according to your instructions and end up failing to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, or if we are injured, what will you say? I'll compensate you for your losses, Zhouwen said casually. All right. Nana was very satisfied with Zhouwen's answer. If there are no other questions, let's begin, Zhouwen said as he pointed at the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. Hui Haifeng and company summoned their legendary companion beasts. 3 of them were birds, while Nana's was a vine. According to the information, it was a legendary water radish vine that could resist the corrosive nature of the lotus pond's water. Furthermore, it could move in water, making it an excellent plant-type companion beast for water battles. Under Zhouwen's command, the 4 companion beasts charged into the lotus pond. Many students were watching the battle. Although Zhouwen's battle with Li Xian had been exciting, he had failed to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. With Hui Haifeng's participation, many students believed that it was very possible for them to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. Not far from the lotus pond, 2 teachers from the school were also looking in its direction. Teacher Wang, do you think Hui Haifeng and company will succeed? Lu Jingyan asked casually as he watched the 4 companion beasts charge into the lotus pond. Chapter 68. I don't think so, Lu Jingyan said with a smile. Why? Wang Fei asked Lu Jingyan, perplexed. Anyone who had seen the video of Zhouwen and Li Xian battling the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus would know that Zhouwen and company had the strength to slay it. They were just short of the final strike. Now that they had 4 stronger people, it didn't make sense for them to fail. Take a look at this first. Lu Jingyan switched on his phone and clicked on a video. This is the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus? I don't think it's this one, right? Wang Fei glanced at the video and immediately saw a few soldiers controlling their companion beasts to fight the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. Lu Jingyan said, This is the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus that the army discovered elsewhere in underground Buddha City. They mobilized 5 legendary companion beasts, but they suffered heavy losses and were nearly wiped out. There's actually such a thing? Wang Fei was somewhat alarmed. Lu Jingyan pulled the video to the end and made Wang Fei watch it carefully. The final scene was the scene of 20 to 30 blood fountains spewing out from the lotus platform. The 5 legendary companion beasts were drenched in blood as their bodies rotted. They fell into the lotus pond with tragic cries, leaving nothing behind. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus actually has such an ability. Should we stop Hui Haifeng and company? Wang Fei said with a frown after watching the video. Lu Jingyan shook his head and said, "We can warn them now. In the future, when they enter unknown dimensional zones to explore, who can warn them? Cruel reality is the best teacher. Today, they only need to pay the price of a few companion beasts, but the experience they gain might save their lives in the future." Wang Fei nodded slightly. What Lu Jingyan said was right. In school, the dimensional zones they came into contact with were areas that the army had already explored. It wasn't dangerous enough, making some students belittle dimensional zones. It was good to let them suffer a little. Teacher Lu, what do you think of Zhou Wen's student? Wang Fei's gaze landed on Zhou Wen, who was commanding the battle. To be honest, although his and Li Xian's performance was spectacular, I think more highly of Li Xian in terms of potential. After all, to go further, just relying on talent and hard work isn't enough. Besides, I heard that Zhou Wen is addicted to gaming. I'm afraid he won't amount to much. Lu Jingyan paused and looked at Wang Fei. Zhou Wen's class should be led by you, right? I'm afraid you'll have to work a little harder. Wang Fei nodded and looked meaningfully at the distant Zhou Wen. She muttered to herself, I don't think so. This Zhou Wen might be a very interesting fellow. Under Zhou Wen's command, the 4 companion beasts attacked the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Hui Haifeng and company were very cooperative, and their ability to control companion beasts was also very strong. Soon, they tore through the blood Buddha petals and slayed the toad. After the toad self-destructed, the 4 of them controlled their companion beasts to charge at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in a bid to slay it. Winchim bird, blood raven, retreat 10 meters. Water vines, retreat 15 meters. Raven Tengu, move 7 meters to the left. At the same time, shoot out feather attacks, Zhou Wen instructed. With victory at hand and the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus on the brink of collapse, the boy controlling the blood raven said in excitement, "Let me complete the final strike. Blood raven, activate blood feather storm." Hui Haifeng and Nana controlled their companion beasts to retreat according to Zhou Wen's instructions. However, the boy didn't let the blood raven retreat. Instead, he delivered the final strike. This was because everything had gone too smoothly. It was so smooth that he believed that he didn't need Zhou Wen's help. He saw the blood feather strike the lotus platform, immediately riddling it with wounds as though it was about to crack. Just as the boy was feeling smug, he heard a boom. The lotus platform exploded as 20 to 30 blood fountains shot into the sky. Instantly, it turned into a rain of blood that blanketed the area. Hui Haifeng and company's companion beasts had already retreated according to Zhou Wen's instructions. They calmly reacted and retreated out of the range of the blood rain. As the blood raven hadn't retreated a step earlier, it was too close to the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It couldn't escape in time and was drenched by the blood rain. Caw! The blood raven let out a tragic cry as most of its feathers rotted away. It fell straight into the lotus pond, making the other students draw a cold gasp. The boy's expression turned nasty. Zhou Wen didn't say a word as he continued commanding. Winchim bird, use your primordial energy skill to attack the flower stem. Raven Tengu, use your feather attacks to provide cover. Water vines, prepare to catch the lotus flower. Under Zhou Wen's command, the trio successfully slew the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus and dragged the damaged lotus flower out. Junior, not bad, Nana said with a smile. I'm not responsible for the blood raven's death. I won't compensate you, Zhou Wen said. The boy controlling the blood raven blushed when he heard that. He said in embarrassment, "There's no need to compensate me. I'm sorry. I was too anxious." Zhou Wen, you are indeed something. How did you know that the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus had such a self-harming move? When facing any dimensional creature, one has to be fearful. Otherwise, one might pay the price with their lives. I'm only doing my best to prevent any accidents from happening, Zhou casually gave a reason. Thank you for this. Otherwise we would have suffered heavy losses, Hui Haifeng said with narrowed eyes. He didn't care about the losses, but Zhou performance piqued his interest. I'm paid to do things. It's only right. If there's nothing else, I'll be heading back. Zhou turned and left after saying that. He was bent on entering small Buddha temple's main hall to investigate, so he wasn't in the mood to say anything else. Gao Yang watched Zhou leave with a complicated expression. He had always felt that Hui Haifeng's hiring of Zhou was unnecessary, but from the looks of it, without Zhou, it was very likely that the 4 companion beasts would have died. The loss was greater than losing a companion egg. Lu Jingyan wore an odd expression as well. Strange. Could it be that he has connections in the military and has seen this video? Wang Fei said with a smile, "Don't you know that Zhou stay in 4 Seasons Garden was arranged by the Yin family?" I see. No wonder. Only then did Lu Jingyan come to a realization. However, Wang Fei narrowed her eyes as she looked in the direction of Zhou departure. There was something she didn't say. Although Zhou has a deep relationship with the Yin family, it's absolutely impossible for him to obtain information from them. How did this fellow do it to such an extent? What an interesting fellow. From the looks of it, there's a need to gain a deeper understanding of him. Just treat it as helping Xiaolan. Chapter 69. Zhou was already extremely familiar with underground Buddha City. He rode the silver-winged flying ant to the lotus pond as fast as he could and killed another mutated Buddha heart lotus. Even if others could kill a mutated Buddha heart lotus, they would have to wait for a mutated Buddha heart lotus to come out of a dimensional rift. However, Zhou only needed to revive the blood-colored avatar to spawn a new mutated Buddha heart lotus, allowing him to slay it infinitely. Slaying a mutated Buddha heart lotus was extremely easy for the present Zhou. After a standard set of procedures, the mutated Buddha heart lotus was slain. Ding! Following a clear and melodious sound, something burst out of the lotus. A companion beast. Zhou was overjoyed. It was a pleasant surprise. However, Zhou present primordial energy wasn't enough to incubate a legendary companion beast. At most, he could use the blood-colored avatar's death to incubate it in an incomplete manner like the silver-winged flying ant. That didn't seem meaningful. Zhou was already struggling to rear a silver-winged flying ant. If he were to rear another one, it would probably bankrupt him. When the blood-colored avatar picked up the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg, a fusion notification appeared in the system. Mutated Buddha heart lotus and silver-winged flying ant have a compatibility of 3%. Mutated Buddha heart lotus and mutated skeleton ant have a compatibility of 2.5%. Do you want to fuse? Fuse my ass. Zhou felt depressed. With a compatibility in the single digits, the chances of a successful fusion were about the same as winning the lottery. There was no need for him to take the gamble. If only I could get the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg out of the game. Zhou hadn't discovered this function despite studying it for a long time. However, on second thought, Zhou realized that even if he could get it out of the game, he couldn't sell it. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain where he had obtained the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg. Using the mysterious phones function, Zhou checked the companion egg's information. Mutated Buddha heart lotus, legendary life providence, turbid waters clear lotus strength, 15 speed, 13 constitution, 12 primordial energy, 18 talent skill, blood-patterned Buddha aspect. Zhou was somewhat disappointed when he saw it. To an ordinary legendary companion beast, the mutated Buddha heart lotus's stats were definitely not bad. But compared to the mutated Buddha heart lotus's strength, The stats of this mutated Buddha heart lotus were definitely not good. The mutated Buddha heart lotus should have 4 primordial energy skills, but this one only had 1. Clearly, this wasn't an attribute an excellent grade companion beast should have. Previously, Zhouwen was somewhat hesitant, but now there was nothing to hesitate about. He chose not to fuse it and fed the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg to the silver-winged flying ant as food. Zhouwen originally imagined that the silver-winged flying ant wouldn't need food after it evolved into an adult, but he soon realized that he was wrong. Not only did the silver-winged flying ant need food, but its need was even greater than before. After the mutated Buddha heart lotus companion egg was fed to the silver-winged flying ant, it didn't show any obvious changes. However, the slight hunger notification that appeared previously was gone. It won't be too late to hatch it after I get an excellent grade mutated Buddha heart lotus. Zhouwen's goal was naturally a mutated Buddha heart lotus companion beast with full stats. After all, he had plenty of time to grind the mutated Buddha heart lotus in the future. Obtaining an excellent grade 1 was just a matter of time and luck. After slaying all the Buddha heart lotuses in the lotus pond, he failed to obtain an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg. Without stopping, Zhouwen rushed to Small Buddha Temple. After entering Small Buddha Temple, Zhouwen converted the Lost Immortal Sutra to the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra before controlling the blood-colored avatar to walk into the temple hall. The Buddha statue was still staring ferociously at the blood-colored avatar. However, this time, the blood-colored avatar didn't immediately die. I succeeded. The Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra is indeed related to this temple hall. Zhouwen was delighted as he controlled the blood-colored avatar to continue walking forward. Finally, he saw the scene inside the temple hall. There were many Buddhist murals in the temple hall, but they were different from the ones Zhouwen had seen in the past. The murals here were scenes from hell. There was a picture of a minotaur being thrown into a pot of boiling oil, a bird-headed monster with its tongue pulled out, and an imp being sawed in half. The entire temple hall was eerie and terrifying, as though it was a punishment hall in hell. And the Buddha statue was very different from the typical Buddha statue. Apart from its ferocious face, it had 2 other faces. One head had 3 faces. The front was the ferocious face Zhouwen had seen previously, and there were 2 faces on each side. The left face was similar to a normal Buddha statue, with a benevolent look and a smile at the corner of its eyes. However, the right face was even stranger than the front. It was a crying face with bloody tears hanging from the corners of its eyes. There was a hint of desolation amidst the ferocious look. What kind of Buddha is this? Zhouwen was alarmed. With his shallow knowledge of Buddhism, he had never heard of a 3-faced Buddha in Buddhism. There was no plaque outside the temple hall, and there was no plaque beside the Buddha statue that indicated the Buddha's name. Apart from this Buddha statue, there were no other Buddha statues in the entire temple hall, nor were there any dimensional creatures. Just as Zhouwen was feeling puzzled, he saw the 6 eyes on the Buddha statue's 3 faces emit a golden glow. Then, the Buddha statue that looked like a stone statue gradually suffused a golden halo, as though it had been sculpted into a golden body. Zhouwen was alarmed as he controlled the blood-colored avatar to leave the temple. There was definitely something amiss. Although dying in-game wasn't a true death, Zhouwen didn't wish to waste a drop of blood. However, before Zhouwen could control the blood-colored avatar to leave the temple, the Buddha statue's 6 eyes shone on him like 6 torchlight beams. Then, he saw the Buddha statue speak. However, his words didn't make a sound. Instead, they appeared on the screen in the form of text. Pious Bodhisattva, the spokesperson of Buddha that walks the world, you will obtain the gift of Buddha. You can choose one of these 3 Buddha-type creatures to be your guardian. As the text appeared, the Buddha statue slowly raised its arms. Between its palms, streams of light condensed and gradually turned into 3 companion eggs. The 3 companion eggs were resplendent with golden light as though they emitted a strange Buddhist glow. There's such a good thing? They actually gave companion eggs directly? Is it the same in small Buddha temple in real life? Zhou was alarmed as he carefully sized up the 3 companion eggs. The 3 companion eggs were all resplendent with golden light as though they were protected by a Buddhist glow. However, their sizes were somewhat different. Clearly, they weren't the same companion beast. Chapter 70. With the naked eye, the 3 companion eggs were golden in color, but the 3 golden colors were somewhat different. As they were in-game, Zhou couldn't tell how big the 3 companion eggs were. Using the blood-colored avatar as a comparison, the largest companion egg was half the height of a person. Not only did it have a golden Buddhistic glow swirling around it, but there was also a faint scarlet glow in the golden glow. Although he couldn't sense its temperature, it made him feel that the interior of the giant egg was extremely hot. The leftmost companion egg was the smallest. It was only the size of the blood-colored avatar's finger. It was also golden, but this companion egg was crystalline like a golden cat's eye. The companion egg in the middle was the size of a soccer ball. It looked like it was made of gold, and there were many uneven patterns on its outer shell. It looked like some Buddhist scriptures that Zhou couldn't understand. Which one should I choose? Zhou sized up the 3 companion eggs and was somewhat hesitant. Although Zhou could understand the blood-colored avatar's feelings, he couldn't tell which of the 3 companion eggs was good or bad. Bodhisattva, follow your heart and make a choice. There's no need to hesitate, the strange 3-faced Buddha said again. It was still in the form of a text column. Zhou thought for a moment and indeed, there was nothing to hesitate about. He had never heard of such 3 companion eggs, so he had no way of making a judgment. He might as well choose one that he found pleasing to the eye and leave the rest to the heavens. With this in mind, Zhou didn't hesitate any longer. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to reach out and grab the smallest of the 3 companion eggs. The tiny, golden crystal-like companion egg was held in the blood-colored avatar's palm. Immediately, the companion egg emitted a golden Buddhistic glow. Obtained mythical companion egg, truth listener. Incubating automatically. F***CK? You tricked me. Zhou immediately let out a strange cry as he flung his hand in a bid to throw the mysterious phone away. A mythical companion egg was very powerful and impressive, but Zhou knew his limits. With his primordial energy, he could even suck a legendary companion egg dry, much less incubate a mythical companion egg. Unfortunately, Zhou's flinging of his hand was too slow. A terrifying force had already emitted from the phone, instantly sucking all the primordial energy in Zhou's body clean. 11 primordial energy was pitifully little. Zhou felt his body being emptied. That wasn't all. All the blood in his body seemed to be sucked away by a water pump as it gathered towards his 10 fingers. His fingertips immediately ruptured, and the blood from his 10 fingers sprayed onto the phone like 10 fountains of blood. In an instant it was completely absorbed by the phone. It's over. Am I going to be the first university student to die playing games in the new era? This thought flashed through Zhou's mind, but in the next second, the phone's suction force disappeared. Zhou's fingers finally regained their freedom and stopped spewing blood. At the same time, a strange golden pattern appeared on his left ear. The golden pattern was like a symbol that was tattooed on the back of his left ear. It made him feel warm in his left ear. I actually incubated a mythical companion egg? Zhou couldn't believe the outcome. It was just too unexpected. A legendary silver-winged flying ant companion egg was enough to cause the blood-colored avatar to explode. The mythical companion egg didn't suck the blood-colored avatar dry. It only made Zhou lose all his primordial energy and a portion of his blood. This didn't match the identity of a mythical companion beast. After Zhou incubated Truth Listener, the other 2 companion eggs in the 3-faced Buddha's hand vanished. The resplendent Buddha statue gradually converged its light and returned to its original stone appearance. It no longer moved or spoke. Zhou hurriedly looked at Truth Listener's stats to confirm if it was really a mythical companion beast. Truth Listener: mortal, evolvable, strength, 11 speed, 11 constitution, 11 primordial energy, 11 talent skill. Truth Listener: indestructible golden body, evil warding, 9 extremes companion form. Earring. Zhou Wen's eyes nearly popped out. Truth Listener wasn't at the mythical stage but at the mortal stage. However, Zhou Wen had never heard of a mortal companion beast with all 11 stats. Furthermore, this fellow actually had 4 talent skills. This was likely the limit of a companion beast's talent skills. The system notification said it was at the mythical stage, but why is it at the mortal stage after incubation? Could it be that this has something to do with its evolvable stats? But how can it evolve? Don't tell me it needs to eat companion eggs to evolve like the silver-winged flying ant? Zhou Wen didn't dare stay in the temple hall any longer to prevent any accidents from happening. After leaving the temple hall, he circled Small Buddha Temple and realized that this place was indeed worthy of being called Small Buddha Temple. It was really small inside. Apart from the main hall, there were no other temples. However, it was also possible that the collapsed rocks had covered up the other parts of the temple. After all, Zhou Wen circled Small Buddha Temple and didn't discover anything. When he entered the main hall again, the 3-faced Buddha didn't react. Zhou Wen had no choice but to leave Small Buddha Temple and exit the game. Only then did he dare summon Truth Listener. Small Buddha Temple was just too strange. Even though he was in-game, Zhou Wen didn't dare act recklessly there. The name Truth Listener wasn't unfamiliar to Zhou Wen. It could even be said to be well known. In Buddhist myths and legends, Truth Listener was the mount of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Legend had it that it was formed from a white dog. It had the ability to hear the matters of the world and was extremely loyal. In Journey to the West, the 6-eared macaque had disguised itself as Sun Wukong. The gods couldn't tell the difference, but Truth Listener could tell the difference. However, it didn't dare say it. Don't tell me this fellow is really the legendary Truth Listener? Zhou Wen felt somewhat expectant. However, when Truth Listener was summoned, Zhou Wen immediately felt depressed. It wasn't a white dog, but a golden monkey the size of a palm. Its golden fur resembled golden threads, and its eyes were like 2 golden gems. It looked extremely adorable, but it was just too small. This fellow is Truth Listener? Zhou Wen found it unbelievable. Its tiny body was the complete opposite of its terrifying attribute. No matter how one looked at it, they couldn't be connected. Zhou Wen tried Truth Listener's companion form again, and the golden monkey immediately transformed into a golden earring that landed on Zhou Wen's left ear. Zhou Wen felt his ear tremble as though the earplugs that blocked his ear had been pulled out. His left ear became several times sharper and clearer. He could now hear everything clearly when he couldn't hear it previously. Ugh! A woman's moan suddenly reached Zhou Wen's ears, leaving him feeling odd. He looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it came from next door. And the person living next door was the arrogant, cold, and mentally challenged Jing. Chapter 71. Zhou Wen frowned slightly as he hesitated if he should go next door to take a look. However, he felt that Jing was a baffling person. It was best not to have anything to do with her. Besides, this was a college that was equipped with an advanced hospital. If anything were to happen to Jing, a doctor would come to save her with a phone call. Just as Zhou Wen was about to take off the Truth Listener earring, he heard the sound of a heavy object falling from next door. The sound entered Zhou Wen's left ear and immediately, a blurry scene of Jing falling from a high place appeared in his mind. The scene flashed before vanishing. There was no movement next door either. Could something really have happened to Jing? Although Zhou Wen didn't mind Jing, he didn't have a blood feud with her. On account of her mother, Lan, he couldn't just watch her die. After some hesitation, Zhou decided to head next door to take a look. After washing his face, he walked out of the building and jumped over the short wooden fence. Standing in front of Njing's building, he pressed the visual doorbell. Zhou thought that if Njing could respond, it would likely mean that she was fine. He could then return to gaming. If there was no response, something had definitely happened. He couldn't just leave her in the lurch. At the very least, he needed to have some compassion. Even if he encountered a stranger, it was still necessary to call the ambulance. After pressing the doorbell, he didn't hear a response. The building was silent with no response at all. Zhou used his earring-wearing left ear to listen, but he still didn't hear anything. There weren't even any footsteps. Could something really have happened? Zhou frowned slightly. To confirm that something had really happened, he pressed the doorbell a few more times, but it remained silent inside. From the looks of it, something has really happened. Without any hesitation, Zhou sized up the building. The door had a password lock, and it was made of special materials. It wasn't easy to smash the door open. If he couldn't enter, Zhou planned on making a phone call to report to the school. Turning his gaze, he saw that the special tempered glass sliding door on the balcony on the second floor was closed and not locked. He leaped up and jumped onto the balcony on the second floor. He pulled open the glass door and entered the building. The layout of the buildings in Four Seasons Garden was the same. With great familiarity, Zhou rushed straight for the bedroom. Thankfully, she had an accident in the bedroom. If something had happened in the cultivation room, I'm afraid I'll have to report it to the school. I wonder if the school's people will be able to save her in time. Zhou twisted the door handle. The door wasn't locked from the inside as he pushed it open and walked in. He saw Njing lying by the side of the bed, her face frighteningly pale. Her eyes were closed as she gritted her teeth. Her forehead was covered in cold sweat, and her body appeared somewhat stiff. She looked like she was in a terrible situation. "What's wrong with you?" Zhou walked forward and squatted in front of Njing, pinching her nose. At that moment, Njing felt like dying. Due to her physique, she had suffered from a strange illness since she was young. Every once in a while, it would act up. When it acted up, her entire body would be in excruciating pain. In severe cases, her entire body would even stiffen, rendering her unable to move. Thankfully, this strange illness was just like her period. It came on time every time, so Njing roughly knew when it would act up. During that period of time, she would spend it in her bedroom and silently endure it. Today, she planned on lying in bed as usual and silently endure it. However, due to the severity of the episode, she couldn't bear the pain and let out a soft moan. Zhou, who was wearing the truth listener earring, heard the sound. As it was too painful, Njing fell off the bed while tossing and turning. Her body was stiff, but she was still conscious. She had heard Zhou pressing the doorbell. She originally imagined that he would leave if no one answered, but to her surprise, Zhou had barged in from the balcony. Njing regretted not locking the glass door. In fact, she couldn't be blamed. This was Sunset College after all. Only the students of the college could come here. Furthermore, there were surveillance cameras everywhere. No one knew that there was something wrong with her, so how would they dare climb the wall to enter her room? As Zhou walked to the bedroom, Njing endured the pain while praying that Zhou wouldn't push the door open. This was because she was only wearing pajamas. This was because she would sweat profusely every time it acted up. She needed to change her clothes after the incident, which was very troublesome. Therefore, she had changed into pajamas. Furthermore, Njing's current posture of falling to the ground was inelegant. As someone who had been educated in etiquette from a young age, she couldn't accept being seen in her current state, much less Zhou, who she viewed as an imaginary enemy. Zhou clearly didn't think too much about it. He only treated Njing as a patient. As he pinched her nose, he asked, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And Jing opened her eyes and glared at Zhou. Unfortunately, that was all she could do. At that moment, her pain had reached its peak. Her body was stiff and trembling. Even her teeth were chattering, so she didn't have the ability to speak. "Don't worry. I'll call a doctor for you." Zhou felt relieved when he saw Jing open her eyes. Since she wasn't dead, there was likely a chance of treatment. Without any hesitation, Zhou took out his ordinary phone and was about to call the school's emergency number to get the affiliated hospital to send a doctor to treat Jing. As a student of Four Seasons Garden, she enjoyed rather good benefits. The medical treatment was also the best. When Jing saw that Zhou was about to call the hospital, she was both angry and anxious. Her strange illness wasn't something an ordinary doctor could treat. It was useless even if she went to the hospital. Otherwise, with the family's strength, she could easily go to the best hospital in the league and see the best doctor. What Jing couldn't accept the most was that she was wearing a nightgown that barely covered half her thighs. Her hair was disheveled, and she was about to be carried out by a doctor. She couldn't accept being seen by other students. Although she knew that Zhou was doing it out of goodwill, Jing couldn't help but grit her teeth. Seeing that Zhou was about to make the call, Jing tried her best to control her body. Using her tenacious willpower, she shouted through chattering teeth, Don't call. I'm fine." Jing had used all her strength to say those words. Her face turned even paler and her voice trembled so much that it was almost impossible to hear what she was saying. Thankfully, Zhou was wearing the truth listener earring and could hear her clearly. However, he looked suspiciously at the pained Jing and said, "You don't look fine. If you're sick, you have to be treated. You can't hide it for fear of treatment. Just relax. Leave the rest to the doctor." Chapter 72. You don't look fine. Zhou thought for a moment before coming to a realization. "Are you afraid that I'll take the opportunity to seek revenge on you? Don't worry. Although I don't think you're much, I won't harm you on account of Sislan and my dad. I'll just get you a doctor." With that said, Zhou continued dialing the emergency number. Jing was embarrassed and anxious. All she could do was shout again. "There's no need. There's really no need. I'm just having my period. I'll be fine after some rest. Leave quickly. Don't disturb my rest." Jing really couldn't explain it to Zhou, so she couldn't care less. She decided to send him away first. "I see. I've heard that girls suffer during those few days of the month, but I never expected it to be this painful." Zhou had lived alone since he was young. He didn't have a mother, nor had he interacted with any women. As he grew older, he began cultivating his primordial energy art. He didn't have any girlfriends, so he didn't know anything about it. Although he was somewhat suspicious, Zhou felt that Jing wouldn't joke around with her life. "I'm really sorry. I'll be leaving first," Zhou said in embarrassment before turning to leave Jing's room. When Jing saw Zhou leave the room, she heaved a sigh of relief. She felt the pain in her body lessen significantly. Women sure have it tough. "Thankfully, I'm a man. I don't have to suffer such pain every month," Zhou muttered to himself as he returned to his building. However, on second thought, Zhou realized that it wasn't easy for him either. Every night there would be someone clamoring in his ear like a ghost chanting scriptures. Furthermore, he would lose so much blood every day, especially this time. To hatch Truth Listener, he had lost at least 500 to 600 cc of blood. It wasn't easy either. "I bought some brown sugar wolfberries the last time. I wonder if it's of any use. I'll cook some when I get back. My anemia seems to have worsened recently," Zhou thought to himself as he touched his forehead. After returning to his room, Zhou forgot about cooking the brown sugar water. He continued taking out his phone to enter the dungeon. This time, Zhou entered the ancient sovereign city dungeon. After killing the skeleton general, a skeleton general companion egg dropped. However, its stats were inferior to the first one. Zhou directly fed it to the silver-winged flying ant. As for Truth Listener, it didn't show any signs of hunger. Zhou didn't know if it wanted to eat. He switched to the underground Buddha city dungeon. Small Buddha temple had already been explored, so there was no point in going there again. The mutated Buddha heart lotus in the lotus pond had been slain and hadn't respawned yet. Zhou directly crossed the lotus pond and headed deeper into the underground Buddha city. In the meantime, he saw a few lotus ponds, but not every one of them had a mutated Buddha heart lotus. After a day, only an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg dropped. Although its stats were rather ordinary, it was a heart-type companion beast after all. Zhou hatched it so that if his heart was damaged in the future, he could use the Buddha heart lotus's companion form to temporarily allow his heart to function normally. After staying up for so long, Zhou couldn't take it any longer. He switched off his phone and slept. He slept all the way until the next morning. When he got up, he placed the blood supplements he had bought into the pot and boiled a pot of brown sugar wolfberry blood replenishing tea. Zhou, are you up? It's matriculation day today. Come out for a stroll. Just as Zhou finished brewing the tea, Li Xian called. What's better? Zhou asked in puzzlement. Today's matriculation day. Many clubs in the school will be recruiting freshmen. Let's go take a look, Li Xian said with a chuckle. I'm not interested in joining any club, Zhou said as he poured himself a cup of blood-replenishing tea. It's fine if you don't join a club. You can take a look at those beautiful seniors. Li Xian exposed his true intentions. Not interested. Zhou still planned on continuing his exploration of underground Buddha city. Don't be so cold. There are benefits to taking a look. Most of the missions assigned by the school require multiple people to complete. The older students already have their own teams. If we want to create our own team, we have to recruit people from the freshmen. Taking a look now is also a preparation for the future. Li Xian gave a bunch of reasons. Zhou was so vexed that he had no choice but to agree to take a look with him. After drinking a huge bowl of blood-replenishing tea, Zhou filled a thermos cup before walking out of the building. And Jing happened to walk out of her building at that moment. When she saw Zhou, she couldn't help but grit her teeth. However, when she saw the thermos cup in Zhou's hand, she couldn't help but be taken aback. And Jing recognized the tea. There were fruits like wolfberries and red dates inside, and it was obvious that it was brewed with brown sugar. In the past, the servants at home had also brewed it for her. Do you think you can bribe me with a cup of brown sugar water? Men didn't drink this, and after yesterday's incident, Jing believed that Zhou had brewed it for her in a bid to ease the tension between them. Although she had such thoughts, the look in her eyes turned a lot gentler. She found Zhou rather meticulous. When Zhou walked out of the yard, Jing walked out as well. Zhou needed to walk past her, so he walked towards her. And Jing watched Zhou walk over, wondering if she would accept the brown sugar water if he handed it to her later. Just as she was pondering over it, Zhou had already walked in front of her. Seeing Jing looking at him, Zhou nodded slightly at her as a greeting. When Jing saw Zhou nod at her, she imagined that he was about to hand over the blood-replenishing tea. She averted her gaze slightly and waited for him to hand over the cup. To her surprise, Zhou walked past her with the cup in hand. He had no intention of walking towards her. Furthermore, he took a sip from the thermos cup as he walked. It seems a little too sweet, Zhou muttered to himself after taking a sip. And Jing's face burned as her eyes nearly spewed fire. Zhou didn't notice Jing as he walked out of Four Seasons Garden. How can a man like you not be nourished to death by drinking something like that? And Jing gritted her teeth as she watched Zhou leave. Today was the matriculation day, but Sunset College wasn't like the typical school. There was no welcoming ceremony, nor were there many decorations. Apart from having more people, it didn't look any different from usual. On the two sides of the street facing the main entrance were 2 rows of tables. In front of the tables were recruitment signs. They were the school's club's recruiting members. Sunset College encouraged student clubs and hoped that there would be more cooperation between students, especially when entering dimensional zones to complete missions. Zhou-Wen, I'm here. Zhou-Wen was watching when he heard Li Xian's voice coming from a club's recruitment point. Chapter 73. Zhou-Wen, are you interested in joining our Weiyang Club? As Li Weiyang spoke, she winked at Zhou-Wen. Our Weiyang Club's members are basically all girls. There are many beautiful seniors. Before Zhou-Wen could answer, Li Xian exclaimed, Sis, that's not nice of you. How can you snatch him from me? However, it's useless even if you snatch him. Zhou-Wen and I are setting up a new club. It's impossible for Zhou-Wen to join your Weiyang Club. Li Weiyang curled her lips and said, That depends on whether Zhou-Wen is willing to set up a new club with you. Sisters, let's show our Weiyang Club's strength to our junior. The row of female students at the back were all vying for attention as they posed in all sorts of sexy, cool, or adorable poses. It was as though 100 flowers were blooming. A honey trap? Sis, that's against the rules, Li Xian protested as he drooled. This is called making reasonable use of existing resources. Li Weiyang ignored Li Xian's protest and said to Zhou-Wen with a smile, How about it? Consider joining the Weiyang Club. I won't mistreat you. Zhou-Wen shook his head slightly. I've already promised Li Xian to set up a new club with him. Li Weiyang was somewhat exasperated by Zhou-Wen's rejection. All she could do was say, All right, but I hope your new club can form an alliance with our Weiyang Club. We can complete missions together in the future. No problem, definitely not a problem. Li Xian agreed immediately as his gaze drifted over the female students of the Weiyang Club. What are you looking at, little virgin? Li Weiyang mocked Li Xian and bade Zhou-Wen farewell before leading the students to recruit the other freshmen. Li Xian chuckled and said, Zhou-Wen, you just missed an excellent opportunity. The Weiyang Club has always only recruited female students. You nearly became the only male member among them. It's like you missed an opportunity to become an emperor. However, Zhou-Wen thought nothing of it as he swept his gaze around and said, When can we set up a club? Can we start recruiting members now? If we don't take action now, I'm afraid some of the better freshmen will be pulled away. The other clubs were recruiting new students, but Li Xian didn't seem to be prepared at all. Li Xian said helplessly, That can't be helped. Freshmen can only apply for a club a month after matriculation. Furthermore, they have to gather at least 5 students to apply. Typically, students will choose to join existing clubs. Although it's a little troublesome for us to set up a new club, we don't have to worry about the old members. Zhou-Wen nodded. This was the reason why he wasn't willing to join the club. If possible, he would rather not join any club. Playing games by himself in peace was much better than joining any club. Zhou-Wen was looking at the freshmen entering through the school's entrance when he was slightly taken aback. 2 familiar figures appeared in front of him. One was a tall girl, while the other was a boy of medium build. They were none other than Fang Ruoxi and Tian Xiangdong. I yang I 1 in I yang 1 in 1 xian 1 I 1 u in 1 in I never expected the 2 of you to be admitted to Sunset College. Zhou-Wen was truly surprised. With so many universities in the league, Sunset College wasn't the best choice. Yet, Fang Ruoxi and Tian Xiangdong had chosen Sunset College. Fang Ruoxi looked at the clubs around her before asking Zhou-Wen, Zhou-Wen, have you chosen a club? Beauty, Zhou-Wen and I plan on setting up our own club. Let's join. I'll make you vice president. Li Xian struck up a masterful pose and struck up a conversation with Fang Ruoxi. Sure, Fang Ruoxi replied with a smile. He never expected Fang Ruoxi to agree so readily. Li Xian was taken aback for a moment before he said in embarrassment, However, we are all freshmen. We have to wait a month before we have the right to apply for the establishment of a club. Beauty, if you are in a hurry, you can take a look at the other veteran clubs. Although Li Xian spoke fiercely, he was a genuine virgin. Furthermore, he was a virgin who didn't dare lose his virginity. There's no need. I'll wait for your new club to be established, Fang Ruoshi said with certainty as she glanced at Zhou. Zhou, you're lucky, Li Xian said with a smile as he patted Zhou on the shoulder. He could naturally tell that Fang Ruoshi was here for Zhou. Zhou, I'm very sorry about what happened before. Please believe me. Something like that won't happen again. Fang Ruoshi was naturally referring to her sudden withdrawal from the team during the college entrance examination. It's fine. It wasn't your fault. Zhou didn't take it to heart. Zhou had always believed that Fang Ruoshi and Tian Xiangdong weren't related to him, so it was normal for them to withdraw under such circumstances. Tian Xiangdong hurriedly said with a smile, Yes. We were forced into a corner in the past. Now that we have entered Sunset College, we have a bright future ahead of us. There's no need to hold back. I guarantee that something like that won't happen again. Zhou didn't say anything else. Everything was unpredictable. No one knew what would happen in the future, so any guarantees now were meaningless. Since you're old classmates, I'll take you to the registration area, Li Xian introduced as he walked. As Li Xian walked, he introduced, Sunset College is a little different from other schools. There are very few formalities and rituals here. There's no welcoming party or matriculation ceremony for new students. After registering at the registration counter, they will be assigned dormitories. School starts tomorrow. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the first lesson of the first day at Sunset College is a combat test. Freshmen will be sent to a dimensional zone to hunt dimensional creatures. It's best you be mentally prepared. Where will the test be held? Buddha City? Zhou asked in surprise. Of course not. Buddha City is a dimensional zone that was recently discovered. It hasn't been fully controlled, so it won't let these freshmen take the risk. According to past experience, they will choose one of the 4 relatively safe dimensional zones in the school. Every freshman only needs to kill 1 creature to complete the mission. The more they kill, the better their results, Li Xian said. What's the point? Zhou asked. It can be considered a test. Although those who are admitted to Sunset College are the top students of the various high schools, their abilities vary. Such a test can let the teachers understand the true strength of the freshmen. Secondly, it's to create a ranking list for the freshmen, Li Xian explained. What's a ranking list for freshmen? Tian Xiangdong asked curiously. Chapter 74. After registering Fang Ruoshi and Tian Xiangdong, he sent them to their dormitory before returning to his dorm. He had no interest in such activities. Just as he arrived at Four Seasons Garden, he saw a few students walking in with their luggage. Clearly, Sunset College's special admissions students had arrived and were beginning to move into Four Seasons Garden. Zhou wasn't interested in them, so he naturally didn't pay attention to what they looked like. With his head lowered, he walked towards the building at the back of Four Seasons Garden. When he reached the last row, he saw a girl standing in front of another building, using her dorm card to open the door. Hello, my name is Wang Lu. Do you live next door? We'll be neighbors from now on. The girl greeted Zhou in a friendly manner. My name is Zhou, Zhou replied before pushing the door open and entering his building. This fellow is so strange. As expected of a special admissions student of Sunset College. Do all the special admissions students of Sunset College have such personalities? Wang Lu thought curiously. Zhou returned to his room and took out his phone to launch the game dungeon. This time, he entered Ant Nest. Previously, he had encountered a bottleneck in Ant Nest. After arriving in Ant City, his strength no longer allowed him to advance any further. Now that the silver-winged flying ant had evolved into a mature form, Zhou planned on giving it another try. Ant City was still the same as before. It looked mysterious and strange. The ants in and out of their nests, and many black-winged flying ants flew around Ant City. Zhouwen controlled the blood-colored avatar to stay far away from Ant City and let the silver-winged flying ant charge over alone. A mature silver-winged flying ant's stats were considered top-notch among legendaries. With a flap of its 4 wings, it flew straight towards Ant City. The black-winged flying ant immediately discovered him as it flapped its black wings and charged at the silver-winged flying ant. The black swarm looked a little terrifying. The silver-winged flying ant moved like a bolt of lightning as the venomous stinger on the back of its tail shot out a magical needle that penetrated the black-winged flying ant's head. It plummeted to the ground. The silver-winged flying ant didn't stop as it charged into the ant horde like a silver bolt of lightning. Killed black-winged soldier ant discovered dimensional crystal. Zhouwen saw dimensional crystals drop from dead black-winged flying ants, but due to the distance, he had no way of picking them up. If the blood-colored avatar were to charge into Ant City, it would be besieged as well. With Zhouwen's present strength, it would be difficult for him to survive the black-winged flying ants. Many dimensional crystals dropped, but Zhouwen didn't dare pick them up. He felt somewhat depressed. The silver-winged flying ant was also struggling amidst the black-winged flying ants. Although it had killed quite a number of them, there were just too many of them. The silver-winged flying ant was surrounded by perils and could be drowned by the ant horde at any moment. Darn it! There are too many ants here. Furthermore, they are all legendary creatures. The silver-winged flying ant can't charge in at all. Zhouwen wanted to control the silver-winged flying ant to rush out, but it was already too late. Trapped, the silver-winged flying ant could only fight the tidal wave of black-winged flying ants as its injuries increased. Ding! Another black-winged flying ant was killed by the silver-winged flying ant, dropping a black-winged flying ant dimensional crystal. It was the black-winged flying ant's primordial energy skill crystal. Let's fight! Zhouwen saw that there were quite a number of dimensional crystals on the ground. He had been able to hold back, but when he saw the primordial energy skill crystal, he couldn't hold it in any longer. Without any hesitation, he controlled the blood-colored avatar to charge towards the edge of Ant City. At the same time, he summoned the mutated skeleton ant and truth listener to divert the ant horde's attention. The black-winged flying ants quickly discovered Zhouwen. Before he could reach the dimensional crystals, a large number of black-winged flying ants rushed over. The mutated skeleton ant attempted to lure away a portion of the black-winged flying ants, but unfortunately, it was only a mortal companion beast. It died in a blink of an eye after being surrounded by a horde of legendary black-winged flying ants. Zhouwen used the short period of time and gap to leap up and rush to the spot where the dimensional crystals had fallen. He stared intently at the black-winged flying ant crystal. The silver-winged flying ant was also surrounded and killed. Its bleeding corpse fell to the ground as a large number of black-winged flying ants turned around and charged at the blood-colored avatar. Let me get it! Zhouwen controlled the blood-colored avatar and used its greatest speed and strength to grab the black-winged flying ant crystal. However, when the blood-colored avatar's finger was 2 feet away from the black-winged flying ant crystal, a large horde of black-winged flying ants had already rushed forward and drowned the blood-colored avatar. Thankfully, this is in-game. If I were to fight like this in real life, it would really be a dead end. Zhouwen smiled bitterly as he looked at the black screen. He had died for nothing, but Zhouwen was already used to it. Recently, he had died very rarely, unlike when he first obtained the mysterious phone. Dripping a drop of blood to revive, Zhouwen entered the game again. However, he knew that his present strength was insufficient to attack Ant City, so he entered the underground Buddha City dungeon. Zhouwen thought of making another trip to Small Buddha Temple to take a look at the refreshed underground Buddha City dungeon. He wanted to choose one of the 3 and obtain another mythical companion egg. However, after Zhou Wen entered Small Buddha Temple, he was disappointed. Even though Small Buddha Temple had respawned, he failed to successfully trigger the three-faced Buddha. From the looks of it, I can only obtain one mythical companion egg in-game. I wonder if I can trigger the three-faced Buddha to bestow a companion egg if I go to Small Buddha Temple in real life. Although Zhou Wen was somewhat tempted, he dispelled the thought on second thought as it was too risky. To obtain the three-faced Buddha companion egg, I seem to need to master the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Otherwise, only death awaits me. If those soldiers don't know this secret, I'm afraid many more people will be sacrificed. Zhou Wen had the intention of telling this secret to the vanguard troops exploring underground Buddha City so as to reduce their casualties. However, firstly, he didn't have the chance to interact with those soldiers. Secondly, he couldn't explain how he knew this. Suddenly, Zhou Wen's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself, "Since I can't tell them directly, I can publish the underground Buddha City strategy on the League's Dimensional Forum. That way, I can obtain an official reward and prevent those soldiers from sacrificing their lives for nothing." The League had always encouraged citizens to write down their experiences regarding dimensional zones. For this, they had specially set up a server and an official dimensional forum. The dimensional zone strategy published there could be paid to read. It could even be bought by the officials and used as teaching content in textbooks. In order to prevent the person who published the strategy from having any worries, the Dimensional Forum used a completely independent server and security system. Unless the Senate voted to approve it, no one could view the Dimensional Forum's back-end data. In this regard, the League had a very clear legal guarantee. It was to allow experts who didn't wish to expose themselves to publish strategy articles on the forum with peace of mind. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.